We good? Okay. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for a special early start to our meeting. Normally, if we start our meetings at 5:30, it's to do a couple presentations. We do have a couple presentations tonight. One does have a little bit of business that we're going to conduct with it, but we'll get into that here in a few minutes. I do ask that you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. And can we do roll call, please?
Mayor Ortega.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lauer.
Here.
Councilmember Thompson.
Here.
Councilmember Estes.
Here.
Councilmember Applegate.
Here.
Councilmember Geek.
Here.
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
All 7 members present.
Okay, thank you. Depending on how the presentations go as well, we may there may still be a break in between that ending of the presentations and the 6 o'clock normal start time, just in case anybody comes in thinking that we're still meeting at 6 o'clock today. So just in case, we will do that. But other than that, we will go ahead and get moving to our first presentation. It's resolution number 21-029, a resolution authorizing the approval of an intergovernmental support agreement, IGSA, between City of Fountain, Colorado and the Fort Carson Army Installation. Mr. Trilch.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council and members of the public. I would like to start by introducing some very special guests this evening. We have here from the Fort Carson Garrison, Colonel Nathan Springer, is the Garrison Commander. Command Sergeant Major Marcus Brister is the Garrison Command Sergeant Major. Christopher DeGarry, who's the Director of Plans Analysis and Integration Office at Fort Carson. Joe Whiteka, the Director of Public Works. D. McNutt, the Garrison Public Affairs Officer, and Captain Kyle Kravich, who's the Headquarters and Headquarters Company Commander for the Garrison.
Welcome.
I also would like to mention, not here this evening, is Tammy Gale from the Garrison, who's done a tremendous amount of work with us on these IGSAs. I just wanted to mention her name this evening and express my appreciation for getting us to this point. Also, not associated with the Garrison, but on our side, I have Mr. Luis Cibrian is here. Luis, as you remember, was a Veterans Local Government Management Fellow who worked with us a couple years ago, actually, and who has provided us with a tremendous amount of his contracting expertise. He's a retired senior Air Force non-commissioned officer and contracting officer, and has just been, his help has just been tremendous in organizing the intergovernmental support agreement that we present to you this evening. So I'm going to officially, I've got a couple slides here, and would like Council to consider first this resolution this evening to approve the General Facility Construction Intergovernmental Support Agreement. And with that, I just wanted to take a few minutes to just review kind of what intergovernmental support agreements, or IGSAs or IGSAs, are for everyone's review and for the public who may not be familiar. So IGSAs are agreements between the military and a state and local government, often right on the boundary, like neighbors like Fountain and Fort Carson, that serve both the best interests of the installation and the community. And so the way that these are often structured is that the base garrisons often, they provide a wide variety of services. There are cities on the base, and they provide a lot of similar services that municipalities or counties or states provide. And so what the IGSA structure allows us to do is it allows a community to offer those services to the base. What the base gets from that often is that the community can do a better job, can do it more efficiently, can do it quicker, and we can do it in a more cost-effective manner. And so the bases oftentimes, they find some real efficiency from both a resource perspective and an efficiency perspective. And then in turn, the local community, by entering an agreement like this, gets the benefit of new revenue streams into the community, oftentimes benefits from the purchase and utilization of new equipment that maybe is providing the service on the base that can be also used in the community, can take part in reducing costs of services, like a lot of the bulk purchasing that a community may do, the same thing the base needs. So the base and the community go in together and they partner up and make a bulk purchase that drives down price. So these agreements are only, they're really up to the imagination in ways that the local communities and the bases, neighbors and partners can really get together and benefit both sides. So we began doing intergovernmental support agreements. We began conversations with Fort Carson back in 2019. And from there, we took on first a offer to provide pest control services. So we currently provide pest control services to the base. We've been doing that for just about a year now exactly, and it's gone very well. And so drawing off the lessons learned from the pest control IGSA, Fort Carson approached us back in 2019 about providing construction-related services on the base. And originally we called this small projects, because what this IGSA intended to do was that our understanding was that Fort Carson had a lot of little projects on the base that were kind of caught up in the normal contracting system, the normal process they have to address these things. What are small projects? These are minor projects in a barracks, for instance, rewiring some electrical work, or doing some minor plumbing, or retrofitting something inside a barracks. Or it's a minor remodel. You have a brigade that has a training room that needs a new wall space because they need to be able to split their soldiers up and do training with different systems. And so these are the types of projects now that if you approve this resolution and we sign this agreement, the city of Fountain will provide that service on the base at Fort Carson. This is a collaborative effort. It's been collaborative all along, the way. We do this in lockstep with the garrison. And so if this is approved this evening, we will continue to do that. We see actually upon approval of this IGSA beginning projects around the October timeframe. And the way that the city will complete the work on Fort Carson is that we will manage a series of multiple award task order contracts. We have several contracting companies. We did a competitive process in accordance with city procurement policy. And we have these contractors ready to award pending the approval of this IGSA, and they will actually perform the service in the city of Fountain. We will manage that. And in return, we'll be able to recuperate any associated fees with our management of those projects on the base. And so that's kind of an overview of this. I did reach out to council members and staff in the last week and explained in greater detail the agreement itself, the resolution. And so subject to your questions or publics, I recommend that you approve the resolution and the agreement.
Okay, does council have any questions for Mr. Trulch at this point? Okay, and then Colonel Springer, did you want to come up and say anything?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to come over here because I want to talk to everybody. So I'll just take this as my opportunity to talk to the group.
Okay, sure.
The importance of this intergovernmental support agreement.
Yep.
Let me use this. I'm pretty loud anyway. Hey, so, I'm going to give you just a couple figures because I think it's important to understand. So Fort Carson continues to grow. So we have over 70,000 soldiers, family members, and Army civilians that either will live or work on Fort Carson. So pretty big installation, right? So we're the third largest employer in the state of Colorado. It puts us as the 16th largest city in the state of Colorado by number of people, and then the second largest city in the state of Colorado by land size. So when you take Fort Carson proper and our Pinyon Canyon maneuver area and you put that together, second largest, in the state of Colorado. But John really talked about this. I want to talk about what I think is the most important piece for the Army side with this intergovernmental support agreement. So there are a lot of big contracts, big projects that we do on Fort Carson. And when I think of a good example of, I think how this will help is, let's say, like right now we're remodeling our human resource building, about a $6.5 million project, this really big project. We put multiple bids out for that project. It took about 6 months to find the contractor and then get the work going. Well, based on our processes, we do that for small projects too. So let's say we have a building where we just have a floor and the electrical doesn't work on that floor. And that maybe it's a $30,000 or $40,000 project. We got to get someone in there to fix the electric work on that floor. Believe it or not, it's the same process for us to bring in a contractor. We still have to do the 3 bids, and so months later, we finally get someone to come in and do that work. What's so great about this is, with your contractors and this intergovernmental support agreement, we can give you a call. You can come on the installation and get that work started immediately. So it brings your contractors face to face with an enormous community, right? A new revenue stream, 70,000 soldiers and family members that live and work in Fort Carson, and a very large installation. And it really helps us deliver services faster on Fort Carson, fix our property faster, and deliver those services better for our soldiers and families. So I can't think of a more mutually beneficial relationship. I'm just really proud of the relationship that we've historically had with Fountain, and obviously the relationship that we're about to build to continue that interconnectedness that we all have. So thank you for letting me speak. I'm really proud to be here and represent Fort Carson tonight with this really important intergovernmental support agreement. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Colonel. Okay, and do we have any questions from anybody from public? And state your name for the record.
Daryl Couch, Monteris. Since these are, I've worked a lot on government installations. I know that some of the rules don't apply for licensing, but they are trades. I've been on a lot of government contracts. Is the city managing trades to?
Managing contracts.
You're managing the contracts?
Correct.
So you would let them as public contracts?
Right, so in this case, with your general contractors that we have secured that bring all the trade licenses and all the qualifications, which are determined by the performance work statements and requirements that Fort Carson sends to us. We receive the requirements from Fort Carson, we package those, ensure that our contractors meet all of those requirements, and in accordance, of course, with the law, these are subject to legal review by our city attorney, and we package all that into a bid to send back to Fort Carson, and if they accept it, we'll go and
So essentially it worked the same as the military does right now, except that it would be handled through the city.
similar, but the city does it much faster and much more efficient.
I understand that. I just was asking about the legal technicalities.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Quickly.
Hey, Travis Semino. I was just wondering, is this going to just encompass local infrastructure that will be managed locally by Fort Carson by the DPW, or is this going to incorporate some of the Branch Omaha Army Corps of Engineer office projects?
Yeah, just local.
Just local. Okay.
All right. Any other further comments or questions from council? Okay, this is exciting. So we do need to have a motion and a vote on this resolution number 21-029. Mayor Pro Tem.
I enthusiastically move to approve Resolution 21-029.
And Ms. Estes.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and second for approval. Please vote.
7 yes, motion carries.
Okay, and we're gonna have a quick signing ceremony, just right here.
Colonel Springer?
Absolutely.
And for each of you. Yep. Okay, lastly, just to close out, I did want to bring up the Fort Carson staff just up here real quick to be recognized. So if you just kind of come up here for a moment, please. Come on, come on. Mayor, do you want? Come on, Gary. Come on up, come on up.
Let's go, team.
All right, so being a close-knit military community, City of Fountain's not a stranger to the excellence coin or challenge coin, or whatever you want to call it. So this is the city coin, and on behalf of the city manager, who gives me his delegated permission to hand these out, and the mayor has some as well. I'd just like to present a coin with our sincere appreciation for the partnership with Fort Carson Garrison and the tremendous work that we do together. And really, really thankful. So you'll notice the city coin, it's a custom design, and on one side of this coin, it's got we worked on aspects that we thought really defined the Fountain community. And so on the back of this, you'll see a soldier as one of the elements of the city's coin. So, Mayor?
Hey, I just want to thank the city council. I want to thank Mayor Ortega. I want to thank John Trilch here, which does such a great military partnerships partner in you. And, you know, our school districts are combined, our cities are combined, our soldiers and the families work and live here. And now your contractors support this installation. I'm not sure that there's an installation in a city with a closer relationship across the Department of Defense of the United States. So thank you guys. I'm really proud to be part of this. I just want to give you one more round of applause. It's a great evening. Thank you.
We've got one more bit of recognition. Is Ms. Elise Cibrian, can you come on up? So I mentioned during my presentation that Luis is a Veterans Fellow that we had who is a retired Air Force NCO and a contracting specialist, and he has been absolutely instrumental in the effort to do these intergovernmental support agreements. From the very start, he's been with us. He's a true professional and has been just so helpful to the city in organizing these. So I wanted to recognize you, Luis, and thank you on behalf of the city of Fountain. Offer you a city coin. Awesome. Thanks. There we go. Thank you. All right, thank you, Mayor.
For those of you, Luis was clean shaven when he worked for us last time, so it took me a minute to recognize him, but right. All right, thank you everybody for that, and we do look forward to the partnership continuing to grow and what more we can do for the post as well as we move forward. Thank you. All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move into the next thing, Chris. Okay, so Chief Heber is here to do the introduction of the Fountain Police Department Behavioral Health Connect Co-Responder Unit, our Beacon Unit.
In the interest of time, I'll defer the floor to Lieutenant Missy Reynolds.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, LT.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and all honorable members of City Council. Thank you for letting me come talk to you again. I had the opportunity to come visit with you a couple of months ago to talk to you about our Behavioral Health Connect team, which we call Beacon, and how we're in the process of building our team. As I'm sure you recall, the Beacon unit pairs a Fountain police officer with a licensed behavioral health clinician from UC Health to respond to emergency calls determined to have a behavioral health issue as a primary factor. Fountain's Beacon Unit is partnered with the already established and highly successful Beacon Unit through the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. The goal is to divert clients from jail and the emergency room by providing resources and either treating in place or transporting to a mental health facility. Beacon also allows patrol officers to return to normal patrol functions while the Beacon Unit is dealing with the citizen in crisis. I want to express my heartfelt appreciation to the entire City Council for your support of this program. I also want to express my gratitude to the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, specifically Sheriff Bill Elder, Commander Jeff Kramer, Sergeant Katie Otto, and Behavioral Health Programs Manager Carrie Bolter, who we have with us tonight. Carrie's knowledge, professionalism, expertise, and information sharing was integral in making this partnership a success, so thank you. Tonight, I'm really excited to introduce you to our Beacon 3 team because they've now been on the road for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, so they're already out making differences in our community. You've already met Sergeant Owens, so in light of time, right, Chief?
You're good, you're good.
I'm pleased to introduce you to our clinician, Krista Parker. Krista earned her master's degree in social work from New York University in May 2021. She spent time working in the Summit County Jail in Park City, Utah, providing outpatient therapy services to individuals incarcerated in Summit County and individuals in the community in Salt Lake City. Krista also worked as a volunteer victims advocate, providing referrals and services to sexual assault and domestic violence survivors at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. We're very happy to have her here, and if she'd like to say a few words, I'm sure you'd like to meet her.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you all. My name's Krista Parker. I'm super thrilled to be here, super humbled to be here, and this is just a really exciting opportunity to get to work with Sergeant Owens and make a difference for the folks in Fountain who are struggling with mental health difficulties. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also like to introduce you to Carrie Bolter, the Behavioral Health Programs Manager for the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. And once again, Carrie was the one I partnered with to get this partnership going between us and El Paso County. And without her honest expertise in the program and her willingness to share information and help me learn how to kind of start this program for us, I relied on her a lot. So I'm very appreciative of her. So Carrie?
I just want to say thank you so much to you guys for supporting this program and helping us to expand down to Fountain, because we come down here often, and it's so great to have one team dedicated to Fountain to be able to help the community down here. So thank you.
All right.
Once again, I just want to thank you so much for your support of this program. It's needed, and I think it's really going to make a difference in our community, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Missy, I did want to say one thing. We started this journey a year and a half ago together, and it culminates today in the last 2 weeks. Krista won't tell this story, but I had the pleasure to see her and Ken on a call for service last week. And if a picture was worth 1,000 words, that was it. Krista was sitting down on a corner with a young lady that was in some level of distress. She wasn't able to communicate verbally, so she was having to use sign language through her mother as Ken watched over the scene and supported her. And I saw Krista, you know, down on a sitting on a corner, like literally sitting on the corner side by side, really communicating and really reaching out from the heart. It was very touching. I was very proud of you, and I knew we had the right person. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Lieutenant, real quick, just congratulations on finishing school and everything. I know that's exciting to finally be done with all that. But we do thank you for coming and giving us the support this way, and we are looking forward to that, you know, in response to a lot of things, but this is just good policing, a good way to help people who are in trauma, and you know, our policemen and women go out and you don't know what you're going to come across, and be able to bring that expertise in and kind of relieve some of that stress for, I think, our folks as well as for the person in crisis, I think is going to be a huge benefit to our community, and hopefully it just really helped to diffuse a lot of situations, we're hoping. So thank you for all that, and Lieutenant, thank you for all the work, same with you, and just all the stuff that you guys are doing for us and moving us forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right. With that, we can either take a 7-minute break or we could roll right into it. What would you guys like to do, council? Okay, we'll start at 6 o'clock. We're going to take a quick 7-minute break. All right, thank you. We'll continue on with our meeting tonight. I'm going to move on to item, we're going to skip over 4B. We have no appointments tonight. We'll go into 5. Item 5, City Council Agenda Requests and Announcements. I'll start with Ms. Duncan. Nothing tonight. Mr. Geek.
Yes, I would like to thank the police department and the fire department for all the work they did for 4th of July. But I have got, we got to figure out a better system for this. This law has been in effect since 1960. And the stuff that goes up in the air and goes bang is illegal, and it was illegal in 1960. It hasn't changed any, and it's getting worse. And I don't feel that we need to be putting our people in jeopardy going out and trying to get people to not shoot that kind of stuff off, because they've been partying all day long, and all we're doing is asking for something bad to happen if we continue to do this. And my feeling is there's got to be something done with the county. We have to know ahead of time. Everybody's got to be on the same page. If we can't enforce an unenforceable law. To me, that's what's happening. And it's a situation where I don't want to get anybody hurt that works on those 2 departments. And to me, we're just asking for trouble if we don't figure out something to make this happen.
Yeah. And, I agree with you. It was crazy to say the least that night. And I've got a pretty good view of the entire city, and it was awesome to watch. I mean, my kids and I loved it, but at the same time, it's it's one of those things that you can't police that. Not to take that term lightly, but it's a state law, always has been. We get hammered here locally because we have fireworks that are illegal. The ones we have that were illegal for a little bit there are just your ground type little fountains and sparklers, which really aren't going to cause a whole lot of damage unless you're really trying. The ones that have been shooting off, they're not even sold in the state. You either have to get them online somehow. I don't know where that is, or you have to go to Wyoming, New Mexico to buy them. But you can't even buy them in the state, from what I know of. I don't know for sure. I haven't tried, and so it's too difficult. We had both chiefs out and our commander out, and they were out, just patrolling, trying to get people to calm down and stop, and that was a task in itself. I know our fire department is out patrolling and doing those things, but I agree, we don't need to be out there trying to enforce something that the state has pushed on us since whatever that year that was. If it's important enough for the state to prevent wildfires, and maybe they need to provide the money to help enforce that and the resources, but we're not equipped manpower-wise, anything to be able to deal with what we were dealing with that night, and it was global. I have a friend who was in near Walsenburg, and for some reason down there they were told to stop, so they decided to go home, which they live in North Colorado Springs, and they said basically from Walsenburg, it was kind of the same all the way up, and they watched a fireworks show going. So I don't know what the solution is. There's a year to try to figure something out, but aside from I think more resources, I don't know how that can be done other than responding to calls when they come in and dealing with it that way. Chris, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to mention on that.
Well, it certainly presented challenges that night. For the 6.5 years I've been here, we've had 4th of July fireworks, whether we had them illegal or legal, every year in the city, to include the illegal ones. We made it legal based on the rainfall and forecast in close coordination with the fire chief and members of city council and Scott. Really talked about it, and we felt like based on the rainfall, it was going to be okay. We had received a lot of rainfall that week. There was rain forecasted for the weekend to make them legal, the legal fireworks legal for our city. And I know that 95% of people didn't run up on Saturday to Wyoming and buy what they bought. They had them ready, they had them locked and loaded, and certainly thousands of people enjoyed 4th of July that night. We were very lucky that there was a lot of rainfall that had happened. Really, enforcement, to your point, is not really a winnable solution that night, as James and I and our staff and our people and our young kids, and hats off to the fire marshal that was really out there in the thick of it with one of our police officers. What we came away with is really about containment and mitigation. At the end of the night, we want our citizens to go home safe. That was accomplished that night. Nothing, no property damage was destroyed. That's good. That was success that night. You know, that weekend for our countries, we've talked about the need for more cops and public safety. That weekend we had 400 shootings across the country, resulting in 150 people killed and 250 wounded just in that weekend across our nation. Particular big cities like Chicago, it was really magnified and worse. So, you know, in one sense, we walked away from it and everyone was safe that night. But the ability to control and police thousands of fireworks, by 10:30 that night, myself and the fire chief made the decision to send the firefighters home. It just wasn't a safe environment for them to be out there. Colorado Springs had dedicated, they experienced the same thing we did at a maximum level. They had 10 extra personnel dedicated on the streets to fireworks that responded to 90 of the 225 calls for service, so it wasn't attainable for them. We had a total of 27 people out that night working the streets between police and fire. We did that very coordinated. And I will tell you, it wasn't nearly enough, and it won't be enough next year. So, you know, we have a year to think about it. We've talked to some citizens. We've talked to, you know, some citizens have been, you know, considered, sent us email. We've talked about it, city staff. We have some ideas, and we can work those, and we can work them early. And at the end of the day, our goal is for the community to be safe that night, and for all the firefighters and cops that are serving that night to go home safe to their families. And we just want to stay, you know, that's our primary goal, and really how we mitigate it by responding to calls for service or injuries or fires. You know, one of my goals is to make sure we retain those public safety resources in the event we do have a shooting or a fire. We can respond and protect life and liberty and property at that point. So thank you for your comments. We'll work it really hard. Appreciate everyone's support this year, and we have a year to work on it. And thank you. James, anything to add?
Okay, all right. Thanks. Anything else, Mr. Geek?
No, that's it.
All right,
Thank you.
yep, Mr. Applegate,
I don't have anything tonight.
Ms. Estes,
Nothing tonight.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Ms. Thompson.
Yeah, I went to this really interesting meeting. I gave Todd copies of stuff he's going to make copies of called Housing for All. It was very interesting and put on by the HBA, and it's part 2. I have no idea when part 1 was, but it was part 2. So if you're interested in it, maybe Todd, you can email those out because the links are on there to get to watch it and stuff like that. So it's very interesting on some ideas people are just coming up and throwing out there.
Okay, thank you.
And the senior center's back open.
I can't hear you.
The senior center is back open.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And they had their picnic today, had about 100 seniors turn out, and it was a great day. But so if you're a senior and it's open in the mornings to play games, then they close for about an hour and a half to clean, and then they're open again in the afternoon. So come on out and have fun.
Good, that's so good for them that they are able to get back together. So, great. All right, I don't have anything tonight. We'll just go ahead and continue moving forward. Item number 6 is public to be heard. Citizens may address the council on items that are not on our agenda tonight. Council may not be able to provide an immediate answer, but will direct staff to follow up. And out of respect for the council and others in attendance, we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. I have one card tonight for Ms. Lachey.
Donna Lachey, 17245 Milne Road, Hanover, Colorado. So, provided I gave, all of council 2 sets of the documents to share. And so you can review some of what I'm saying. It won't make sense unless I tell you what it is, probably. And the whole issue would take more than 3 minutes, so I'm just gonna kind of give you the sum of it up, and if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer those. My husband Jim sold a duplex in Fountain recently. Through this process, we discovered confusion, which was created due to the customer service conversion, is what we were told. This resulted in my son paying the final bill, which is the first email you see there. It's an email that was sent to him by the utility company that kind of recaps what happened with him. He lived in the duplex also. And the second one is one from the title company, part of communication they had with the city utilities. So my son paid the final bill, and then the title company withheld money for paying the final bill from the proceeds at closing, which resulted in the refund check that you see, which is the third page. And that refund check was sent to me in my name 20 days after my son had paid the final bill. And it was, okay. So the utility company cashed a check from the title company 20 days after my son paid the bill, knowing that there was a zero balance owing on the account. And you can see in the email to the title company that there was communication saying the bill was due. I'm returning that check today because it was made to me. I'm returning this to Mr. Blankenship because that is not my money. I am not my son who paid the bill, and I was not a party in the ownership of this property with my husband, who the title company paid the bill for, and the check was cashed by the utility company. So that is not my money. So there was a lot of confusion in this whole process, you can imagine, and I can explain it if you want to know. So basically, the bill has still been paid twice. The utility company has collected the money twice for the final bill. So in talking to representatives from the utility company, I asked for two things. One was, because my son was a federal investigator and it's not okay for him to have any outstanding bills. One was for him to get a letter from the utility company stating there was no bill that he was due to owe. He did get that. You can see a copy of that. The second was that I asked for them to do an audit to see who else this has happened to. I'd been led to believe that no audit is going to happen. In the process of this, you can see in the letter to my son that they say they need to make changes to their system. But they keep telling me that this just couldn't happen in their system. Their system is working fine. But it didn't work fine. It still isn't working fine. So I only want to make this request to council once. Please order an audit to be done by an uninterested party so that anyone else this kind of thing has happened to will be able to get reimbursement. So far, I haven't gotten good results from this request from anyone else I've made it to. If you would please let me know if you intend to do an audit, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So checks still need to be made to your son then?
I don't know where it goes
Okay.
because they've done this so confusing. What they did was my son paid it with a credit card the day after the bill was generated, which was the second day after closing. So when we had the final bill, he paid that bill.
Mhm.
Then the title company sent a request in Jim's name. And they sent back an email that basically said that there was no balance owing, but they couldn't give out any information about who had the current bill because the bill wasn't in my husband's name. And so my son had to then, who had no party in the sale, my son had to fill out one of the typical consent for residential information forms and send it to the title company, who sent it back to the utility company. And you can see in that email from the title company, the utility company, I don't think, believed that they had sent them a check. And so they wanted a photocopy of the check. So that's why that email is stated the way it is. So when the check came, I asked them to hang on to the check. when it came in. Could they intercept that check? Because in my opinion, the best thing to do would have been to return it to the title company and say, we didn't give you complete information. There is no bill owing on this property. So that was 20 days after my son paid it. And instead of doing that, Brett at the utility company customer service called me, and he said that they cashed the check through the utility company. Now that made the double payment, and that they were gonna refund it directly. The problem is, I can't take the money because none of it was in my name. It was in my husband's name, the property was. So the check should have been made to him, but now that they've cashed it and the title company has finished everything, that's all closed out now, I don't know what you do. So basically, from closing, Jim's money has been kept for 20 days beyond closing for no reason. And this is why I said there's a lot to this story to some degree. What caused all the confusion in the beginning was our son owned the duplex first. He was gonna move and work in Chicago. He decided not to. He kept living there, but we wanted to keep a house in town, so we bought it from him. Jim bought the duplex from him, not me. My name wasn't on it. But when our son bought it, he was out of town, so I did all the paperwork by power of attorney to do the purchase, but I couldn't get the utilities in his name by power of attorney because I didn't have one for that. So I had the utilities turned on in my name. That was never changed. When they updated their system, that didn't carry over, so nobody at the utility company would talk to me in the beginning about it because they just thought our son's name was on the bill. They didn't look. They never did a credit check on him. He never signed anything taking responsibility. He did pay the bills, and they had record of that. So when they converted over, they put it all in his name. And he never once signed for responsibility. And so that's where the problem started. It was in the conversion that it all got confused. Trying to get one person in that building, or Brett in charge of customer service, to actually listen and understand what's going on and take my word for it, that wasn't going to happen. And that is shown by the fact that they issued me a refund check. I can't cash that check. That would be fraud. I didn't pay any bill. I don't deserve a refund.
Okay, did you want to say anything?
Yes. Yeah, I spoke to Mrs. Lachey at length on Friday, July 2nd. She explained to me her situation. I told her that we would get back to her after the weekend, and I talked to Brett that Tuesday morning, and I believe that he got back to Mrs. Lachey. We determined that there was some confusion that was created by this conversion of our system. And so what we did was we tried to expedite, at that point in time, now that we knew that there was an issue, we tried to expedite the refunding of the money. We actually received the check on Thursday, July 8th from the title company, and that's when we cut the check. Evidently, we, in error, cut it to Mrs. Lachey instead of her son. We'll correct that. And I have talked to Brett, and they are, evidently, when they converted from one customer service system to another, there was other individuals on the account that didn't carry forward, and so they are going through and trying to identify which of those are, so that we don't have this type of confusion, because this is not acceptable to us either. So we are working to resolve the overall problem. We thought we had resolved this particular problem, but evidently not. We will reissue the check to Mrs. Lachey's son tomorrow.
Okay, now that's not what needs to happen, okay? My son paid it with a credit card, so there was a $2 additional charge. That is the $149. The title company paid $147.
Okay,
And so, but my son wants to be out of this, out of the middle of it, because he shouldn't be in the middle of it.
okay, and so what I'm hearing is that they're gonna fix that part for you. Your request is to see if we will order an audit of some kind, to see if this isn't affecting other people.
Yes, I
Okay,
would
'cause I-
like an audit. I don't know how you can determine who to audit.
Right, I wouldn't know what that would look like at this point, and that's
And
something we'd
maybe
have to
an
look into.
auditing firm could tell you how to identify. But as much problem as I have had trying to reach people and trying to talk to people, I can assure you that if I wasn't retired and had the time to do it, if I was anybody else, I would just eat the 147 and be done with it. And so who knows with the retired, with the active duty military, when they sell houses and move, if they're just writing it off because it's not worth the hassle.
Honestly, it sounds like a mistake that occurred with the conversion, and they're looking into it right now, and so I don't know, at this point, what more we can offer. They're gonna work with you to get that check cut to the right person, whoever that is, if it's your son or if it's, Mr. Lachey,
And I don't know who it needs to go to because I don't understand the legalities of title work and everything else. I don't know if it needs to go back to the title company and for them to send my husband a check. I don't know if it's easiest to refund my son, but he doesn't want that credit card refunded. He wants everything to be done. He's got a letter saying he paid it. He wants to be out of the middle of it. And so I don't know the resolution either.
okay,
So I don't know, but I think that as difficult as this has been, I think an audit is in order.
okay, we can look into it and see what that would look like. I don't even know how you would go about doing something like that. Not in my wheelhouse on that one, so.
Mine either.
Yeah. But it's something that came up, and they're looking into the situation, and it sounds like they've already started working on figuring out if this is affecting any other people, so I would continue working with Mr. Blankenship to get that check cut to whoever you want it cut to, so that they can get it taken care of.
And so how long do we think this might take?
I have no idea. This
we'll-
isn't
Okay.
something that,
We'll cut the check tomorrow, sir. And
Oh,
Mrs.
okay.
Lachey, if we know who to cut it to, we'll try to figure out who to, we want to get the money in the right hands. We thought we were, and that's what we'll continue to do, and we'll take care of this tomorrow.
okay,
Thank you.
okay, thanks. All right, I have no other cards. Okay, all right, we're gonna go ahead and continue moving forward. On to our consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately at the discretion of the council. We have items A, B, C, D for consideration tonight. Mayor Pro Tem?
I move to approve consent as presented.
And Ms. Duncan?
I second.
All right, Mr. Geek, did you have anything? Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. Please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Scott or Yolanda, is that mic still on over here? Because I'm beginning to hear some feedback. No? Okay, I wonder if it's this one over here. Okay, we're going to skip right past old business. We have no items tonight. Item 9, new business. No items were removed from consent agenda, so we'll move into 9B. I'm opening a public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 1764, an ordinance approving a request by Matrix Design Group, Inc. on behalf of HPHR Properties LLC for approval of an overall development plan for the development known as Corvallis for property generally located southwest of the intersection of Mark Shelfer Road and Fontaine Boulevard, hereinafter more specifically described in Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Ms. Martinez.
Good evening, Christy Martinez with the City of Fountain Planning Department. Before we go into the project overview and details of the request being presented tonight, I'd like to pass the presentation over to Deputy City Manager Todd Evans, who'd like to do a brief overview of the development that has occurred within this area.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's okay. Yolanda did it for me. Thank you, everyone. And good evening. This is the general area of this corridor that we're looking at right now. So as this is kind of our northern boundary for the city, I wanted to make sure we kind of went over what's going on in this area, when it has gone on, and then kind of let everyone know what's happening in Colorado Springs, which has come all the way down to the northern boundary of Fontaine itself. So this initial aerial is from 1985. And as you can see at that point, we're still with the fields. It's still kind of the wide filled area you can see to the left there. Peaceful Valley has begun there right on the right-hand side over by Mark Shuffle. And then we'll click up to 1995. So Yolanda, there we go. And we see kind of during that time frame between 85 and 95, in the later 80s, that's when we started to see some movement and development out here. Up at the corner right there at Mark Shuffle and Fontaine on the southwest corner there, that is where the Cotton Grove neighborhood went in, and we can see they kind of initiated the development in at least that corner area. You can see just to the north of their neighborhood, you can see they're starting to move dirt on another little neighborhood area that's going in as well. Peaceful Valley, again, is building out. We don't see anything with Lorson Ranch and nothing with the Glens down here in the county as well. You can see the Peaceful Valley. You can see the golf course there. And Apple Tree Loop has not started yet, but you can see that some of the other houses have been built in that area leading up to Apple Tree Loop. So then we'll move up, and I think the next one will be probably 2003, that time frame. And we can start to see the movement of the Glens in the county. You can see them moving their dirt, and that's when the high density development started to move out east. We still don't have any movement with Lorson Ranch. We do see that the neighborhood that's north of the Cottonwood Grove neighborhood, that is, the homes have started there, and they're starting to fill in that area as well. So we'll go to the next, and I think that'll take us to about the, 2005 timeframe. The Glens continued, but that is just starting, and that's where we have the new intersection up there, right at Mesa Ridge and Mesa Ridge Parkway. We still don't have Lorson Ranch, and then you can see the neighborhood filling in up to the north of Cottonwood Grove. So we'll go to the next aerial that they've got. Let's go one more. There you go. So this takes us to 2011. So now we can see Lorson Ranch has started. The neighborhood to the north of Cottonwood Grove has finished up, and we can start to see the Glens that is coming out to the east from Mesa Ridge itself. Peaceful Valley is done, and you can see Apple Tree Loop is now, the dirt is being moved, and that's started to fill in as well. So we'll go to the next aerial. Now here's the 2015 area. This is where we started to feel the impacts from Lorson Ranch itself. So as you can see, that high density has kind of begun. Now they're starting to build up at the corner, and they're starting to move on the other side of Jimmy Camp Creek. As you look down here at the Glens, you can see it's continuing to move towards Mark Shuffle itself. Apple Tree Loop in the city of Fountain down by the golf course, that is completed now. And that is fully inhabited. And then we'll go to the next one, Yolanda, please. In 2018, so this is just a couple of years ago, so you can see Lorson Ranch has now moved into one of their phases where they're now up on Mark Shuffle itself. So they're looking at more impacts to that intersection. We've also got the Glens that is now, as you can see, they're moving dirt right bordering Mark Shuffle itself. So it's kind of closing in around this corridor and around that piece. And that piece in Fountain, which we'll talk about tonight, Corvallis, which has always been known as Singer Ranch, that was annexed into the city in 1989. So it's kind of back at that first initial aerial when all this started to develop in this area. So let's go to the current, Yolanda, if you could. So here we go, the current, and we can really see the impacts. So we've got basically high density development that has started to encompass this entire area. The Glens, as you can see, they're north of Mark Shuffle. Those are filling in. They're in some of their final phases there. Lorson Ranch, those homes have all been built They're across east of Cottonwood Grove, and they've also built up to the north of that intersection as well. So everybody doesn't know, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up tonight. A lot of folks don't realize that Banning Lewis Ranch is actually that northern portion. So if you look at where Fontaine is, north of Fontaine, that is a portion of Banning Lewis Ranch. And for those of you that have seen along Powers as you're going out, they are starting to develop that area within Banning Lewis as well. So I just wanted to make sure, because this is kind of the northern boundary of the city, that everyone had kind of a good mental picture or a good kind of idea of what has been occurring out there for the last 25 years. So it looks like in the 80s, Cottonwood Grove was the first, and now it's starting to get encompassed by this high density, both and one of the reasons I wanted to show this, if you have Colorado Springs to the north, you have the county to the east, and you have the county to the south with the Glens, and then you have Fountain, and that's the project that Christy's going to take you through tonight. So just wanted to give a quick kind of history and what's happened in that corridor.
Can I clarify just a couple things on this? Oh, the map is covered. If you could uncover. Just take the little slides off. Okay, so the area north of Fontaine that you said is Banning Lewis Ranch is Colorado Springs.
That's in Colorado Springs, yes.
Okay, but all the rest of this, except for the Peaceful Valley area, and what we're talking about tonight, is a lot of this is county?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I think you're good.
Okay, I just want to make sure there weren't any other questions before I
No, go ahead.
presented.
I think a couple of us up here are still kind of struggling with which is Powers and which is,
Can you go back to the Google?
yeah,
Do you want me to point them out?
okay.
So Powers Boulevard would be along the left side of your screen here. Fontaine is the east-west corridor here, with Mark Shuffle being on the eastern boundary.
Can you, since you've got the pointer?
My
which you-
pointer.
Yeah, can you point out the Banning Lewis?
So Fontaine is located here. It's the
Yeah.
east-west corridor. Banning Lewis Ranch southern boundary is right along this northern boundary.
And then what's up to the northeast and then in that corner up by the Rose Compass? Northeast, other side.
Northeast.
Yeah,
All up here. This is also land that is part of Colorado Springs jurisdiction.
okay. So they're, I don't want to take you off your track
You're
here, but
okay.
they're moving pretty hard at annexing a lot
Correct.
to our north and east.
Correct. Banning Lewis Ranch was annexed into Colorado Springs, the city of Colorado Springs, in the 80s. I'm not aware of the name of this land mass or when it was annexed, but that is the southern boundaries of Colorado Springs.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you.
And before we get started, the way public to be heard public hearing will be done. We'll have information from Christy. We'll kind of walk us through the Fountain side of the project and the things that the city staff have been working on. Then we'll hear from the applicant if they need to clear any questions and comments up. And then council will be able to ask some questions of both Christy and the applicant. And then at that point, I will then open up the floor for public to speak at that point. If you have any questions or concerns to bring up at that point. So kind of the way that this will go during public to be heard. And there's a lot of people here, I think they're all for this and just want to make sure they understand what that process is going to look like.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So again, the item being presented tonight is for consideration of an overall development plan for a development named Corvallis. It's located generally at the southwest corner of Mark Shuffle Road and Fontaine, again, Fontaine being the northern boundary with Mark Shuffle running along the eastern boundary, and is currently zoned planned unit development. The total land area within the Corvallis development is approximately 275 acres. As Mr. Evans had previously mentioned, this area was annexed into the city limits of Fountain in 1989. At that time, they also approved, the city council sitting at that time approved a master plan, which is similar to the overall development plans today for the same area known as Crescent Heights. Within that master plan, it was called out for multifamily, single-family residential, commercial, park space, and a school site. The overall development plan being presented tonight is generally consistent with that previous 1989 plan. However, there's been some updates to the plan to bring it more into conformance to current standards today. Within the current plan being presented tonight, there's approximately 140 acres of single-family residential, 16 acres of multifamily residential, a 12-acre school site for Whitefield School District 3. That acreage is approximately the land area for an elementary school site. There's approximately 36 acres of commercial and 45 acres of open space throughout the development. As I briefly touched on, the master plan previously was approved in 1989. The property owner at that time had been using the land area for agricultural purposes up until they sold the development. Just in the past couple of years, the new developer is now seeking to update that plan and seek similar development approvals to what was approved in 1989. Within the new proposed overall development plan, within their single-family residential land areas, they're looking at densities up to 10 dwelling units an acre, with a maximum total units, residential units throughout the development at 1,180. They will be retaining commercial land nodes along Mark Shuffle Road and Fontaine, as those are the major roadways. Fontaine is an arterial roadway, and Mark Shuffle is planned to be built out as an expressway. As I mentioned, the 12-acre elementary school site, various open space stormwater detention facilities are also throughout the development, and there's also a future public safety center site located within the development. The regional commercial areas are located along Mark Shuffle Road, and then the village commercial areas are located along Fontaine, along that northern boundary. Within both of those two commercial areas, the permitted uses would range from anywhere retail, restaurants, offices, etc. Typical uses that you would find within any other commercial corridor. There are various stormwater detention facilities located throughout the development. The specific size and detailed engineering specifications of those detention ponds have not been laid out at this point. They have the general idea of where they would be located based upon the grading, but the specific engineering has not been defined. To put all of that into context, so north is to the top of the screen with Fontaine Boulevard running east-west. Mark Shuffle is along the right-hand side of the screen, and Powers would be off to your left. There is a arterial roadway that would go from Mark Shuffle Road along the east, loop through the development, and connect to Fontaine Boulevard to the north. There's also extensions of Autumn Glen from the south through the Glen at Whitefield that would ultimately go through the development and connect to the north to Fontaine. The school site is this blue area near the southern boundary in the middle of the development. The two lighter shaded purple areas here are the village center commercial land areas, and the darker purple along the eastern boundary of Mark Shuffle is the regional commercial. As you can see, there's various open space throughout the development, which is contained primarily within the 100-year floodplain. The linear north-south, generally north-south rectangular area is the Colorado Interstate gas pipelines that currently bisect the property. So they're retaining those within easements and outlining that area as open space as you're not able to build over those natural gas lines. There's also a park site located along the eastern boundary, buffering to the Cottonwood Grove site.
Christy, on that map, can you go back? I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So that block in the white block in the middle, is that the one
This
holdout from the
parcel
family?
right here.
Yeah.
This is approximately a 22 to 25 acre parcel that is an out parcel, is not part of this development, and is under a separate ownership.
But this was part of the family that owned it?
It was part of the original
and they're the
family
ones that-
known
that
as Singer
are that
Ranch.
holdout, yeah.
Correct. There is also another parcel in the southwestern boundary known as the Lacey parcel that is not included in this request at this time.
Okay.
Access will be primarily from Fontaine Boulevard. Again, as with the extension of Autumn Glen that's already existing within the Glen at Whitefield to the south, will extend north through the development and connect to Fontaine to the north. Access is also planned to Mark Shuffle Road, which will be a lighted intersection. Lorson Ranch to the east has already made that connection, and El Paso County Engineering and Public Works has been escrowing funds for a future signal at that intersection when the traffic counts are warranted. There's also various internal roadways that would connect the various land use nodes throughout there. The specific roadways within those residential nodes have not been laid out at this time, but there will be other internal roadways. The overall development plan that's within your packet is only showing the major roadways. This parcel is located within the West Fork Jimmy Camp Creek drainage basin. As I mentioned, there are multiple on-site stormwater detention facilities. All of those detention facilities will be engineered to be full spectrum detention ponds and will meet the minimum drainage requirements for the city of Fountain. All PUD zoned parcels are required to provide a minimum open space allotment within their development, which is 15% of the gross area for commercial and 25% for residential. For this development, there's approximately 62 acres of open space that is required. The developer is proposing to provide approximately 45 acres. The 12-acre school site is not accounted for within that gross acreage. Within the open space areas, they're proposing to provide amenities in lieu of the full open space. Those amenities would include play equipment, benches, pavilions, playfields, etc. The offset of the dollar amounts to improve a 1-acre land is approximately $200,000 per acre. So using that dollar amount ratio for their deficiency, they would be providing approximately $3.3 million of park space amenities within the open space that they're providing throughout the development. Their conceptual park plan was presented at the park board at their May meeting, at which time the park board made a favorable recommendation. There are portions of the development that is within the designated 100-year floodplain. That area has been incorporated into the proposed open space and will be utilized for either passive or active recreational opportunities. This parcel will be provided electric service through the City of Fountain in addition to public safety, so for both police and fire would be provided by the City of Fountain. This is also located within the Widefield Water and Sanitary Sewer District service areas, so the City of Fountain would not be providing those services to it. It would be the Widefield Water and Sanitation District. That district has provided information to the city that they are able to provide those services to this development. Public notice was provided to all property owners within 400 feet of the property boundary, and the mineral estate ownership lessees were notified at least 30 days prior to this hearing. Staff did not receive any feedback from the mineral estate owners. There was significant feedback received from the property owner notification within the 400 feet for both Planning Commission, and as you can see tonight, they are here as well. This item was presented at the Planning Commission at their June 2nd meeting, at which time the Planning Commission made a favorable recommendation by a 4-2 vote. Since that meeting at the Planning Commission, the developers went back, took the feedback that they received from both the commission and the public at that time, and had made some changes to the plan that is included in being presented tonight. At Planning Commission, their original overall development plan was providing a maximum number of residential dwelling units at about 1,800 units. The plan tonight, being presented tonight, has a maximum number of residential units at 1,180, which is about a 600 unit reduction within their maximum units. There was no buffer being provided along the eastern boundary to the Cottonwood Estates, as there was already an existing 15 to 75 foot wide buffer provided by the Fountain Mutual Irrigation Company ditch. They have now added an additional 15-foot buffer on their property landmass, which will now equate for anywhere between 30 to 75 feet of buffer from the residential rear property lines to any development that would occur within the Corvallis development. The minimum lot size proposed at Planning Commission was 4,000 square feet, and they are now seeking a minimum lot size of 3,800 square feet. The future land use plan within the Fountain Comprehensive Development Plan makes a recommendation of neighborhood commercial, multifamily residential, and single-family residential. The overall development plan is generally consistent with those future land use classifications. Staff finds that the overall development plan for Corvallis is generally consistent with the review criteria outlined in Section 172230 of the Fountain Municipal Code. The two dissenting motions made at the Planning Commission, the feedback received at that time was the development was too dense and that they needed to have more community engagement. Based on the recommendations from Planning Commission, the applicant had made some revisions and incorporated those changes in feedback. At this time, staff would make a recommendation of approval of Ordinance 1764 on first reading, approving the Corvallis overall development plan, subject to the conditions that any amenities being proposed in lieu of the full 25% open space requirement may not be used towards the calculation of park fees that are due at time of building permit, and that the 50-foot wide Colorado interstate gas easements be provided and dedicated on a future final plat. Are there any questions for staff?
All right, any
And I can
questions?
go back to the map if those questions are.
Okay, any questions for Christie at this point from council? Or Todd? Okay,
Okay.
okay, go ahead.
I know we might not be this far in the development process, but when, I hope that's not my car. Somebody want to check and see if it's my car? Anyways, I lost my train of thought there for a second. When Ventana came in, we put some stipulations on the different phases they put in regards to the amenities that they were going to put in. We didn't, a lot of times we have found that they want to put them in the very last phase of the development, and we were very specific in certain things that had to be done. Is that something that can be considered in a development like this?
It certainly can. I'm not sure that this phase of the development would be appropriate since it's so schematic, but as they move through future entitlement processes with their subdivision documents, would get more refinement in terms of what those open space and amenities would look like, so that a certain phase isn't front-loaded too much or all the amenities aren't provided until the last phase comes in, so that there's a balance of those open space and amenities throughout the development.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I think that's important to make sure that we keep that, not just for this development, but for any of them in the future, because I know that's been brought up a lot in the past, that we don't want them taken off after they've built the houses and none of the parks are built out, so.
Well, not just that, but say that they don't get to all the phases, like has
Right,
happened
yeah.
before, when for some reason they stop halfway through, and then the people who live there now don't even have a swing.
Right, yeah.
So that was why we actually had a builder tell us we should do that, right?
Yep.
Put certain things in certain phases. Okay.
Yeah, so if we can, keep that at the forefront when we get to those points.
Absolutely.
Okay. Does the applicant want to speak?
Yes, they do have a presentation.
Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jason Allwine with Matrix Design Group. We are the applicant and the planner and engineering firm for Corvallis.
Can you speak up a little bit as well?
Yeah, I'll try to get a little closer. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Some of this is repeat, so I'll try and be succinct and get through some of the more detailed part of the presentation with the planning aspect and some of the concerns that were raised at Planning Commission. As Christy mentioned, we are requesting an overall development plan amendment. There is one on file now, so we've taken that plan, kept it mostly intact, but did make some amendments we feel are beneficial to today's current development and climate from a demand standpoint. The PUD zoning will remain intact. Here is an overview, a little bit of kind of a repeat of the slides. You can see the site is outlined in the gray with the white site. There is, as Mr. Evans mentioned, some development around Banning Lewis Ranch to the north. In addition, this is also Banning Lewis Ranch that comes down and touches Lorson as well. So you can see the development of the urban type suburban density that is happening, built up today and continue to be built. A quick brief overview of the stakeholders we've met with through the process. That includes the City of Fountain, City of Colorado Springs, El Paso County. We have 3 different jurisdictions when it comes to transportation. There were a lot of questions regarding roadways, improvements, so forth. We know there's going to be some improvements to Fontaine Boulevard. Currently, it's a 2-lane road. Because that is a City of Colorado Springs controlled road, we are working closely with them to figure out what that road cross-section looks like, the timing of that cross-section, and how those improvements get made, because there are, we go back to the map, some interesting, we have some existing roadway to the east at Mark Scheffel, there's an out parcel here, and then westward is sort of existing off-site. So how those improvements get made, the timing of that, the funding, those are all things we're currently in discussions with City of Colorado Springs on how to manage that if this project moves forward. Additionally, we've met with the Fountain Mutual Irrigation Company. There is a ditch that runs through our property. It runs south to north, crosses Fontaine, then comes back onto our property. We're working with them to either maintain that open ditch or most likely pipe it. We've had several conversations with Mr. Gary Steen over there on how that may work. For today's proposal, we're recommending piping that. The details of that will be flushed out if we can pipe it with gravity and so forth as we move into more detailed designs with actual street design, lot layouts, and et cetera. Sorry. We also met with the Fountain Mutual Metro District regarding trail connections. They have a long-term plan, and I can show this on a future slide, to run a regional plan, a regional trail west to east to connect to the Jimmy Camp Creek Regional Trail, and I'll show it on a map here in a bit. The Widefield Water and Sanitation District, as mentioned, they are the service district providing the water and wastewater for this, and they have committed that they can serve this development. And then finally, with the Widefield School District, the location and the size of the school was determined in collaboration with them on what that size was and what the location was. So that's why you see it where it was. Here's an existing zoning map. As you can see, this site is in the city of Fountain city limits, but it's kind of a donut hole. How it got there, I can't answer that, so please don't ask. But nonetheless, it is within the city of Fountain, so here we are requesting an amendment to ODP. It is currently zone PUD. We're going to keep that PUD in place. As you can see, some of the existing zoning around us, PUD, RS 6000 is county to the south, A5, R2.5, those are 5-acre, 2.5-acre lots, 6,000. R4, ironically, is an old county PUD zoning. As you can see, there's PUD to the north, and then PUD, part of Lorison Ranch. And then currently, Banning Lewis Ranch is PIP2, M2. Those are both heavy industrial zones. I can't speak for what the owners of Banning Lewis Ranch are going to do, but currently that is zone industrial. If trends continue, I would anticipate, again, not speaking for them because I don't work for them, that would be redeveloped into residential, but that's pure speculation. Here's the existing comprehensive plan future land use map that's taken from the current Fountain Comprehensive Plan. This was done in 2013. As you can see, our site is bounded in red. It does identify SFD as single family residential. For the bulk of the site, MF is multifamily residential, and then this particular land use plan has two neighborhood commercial pods to the north. So our plan varies slightly from that with aspects of the commercial locations and the amount of acreage, but in general, we're in conformance with the future land use plan. This is the existing ODP master plan on file. It was known as Crescent Heights. This was approved in 1989. As previously asked, there is an additional approximately 25 acres, I think known as the senior parcel, I think. So that is no longer included in this amendment, but it was part of the original plan. That original plan totaled approximately 308 units with a variety of uses. Commercial acreage of 29, roughly 70 acres of commercial. There are approximately 200 acres of residential, and you can see the residential, there is a mixed density of 3.5 DUs, 8 to 10 DUs, 18 to 20 DUs per acre, for a total of 1,180 DUs. As Christy mentioned, we reduced our density down to match what was approved on file. So originally proposing 1,794, we've reduced that down to 1,180 to match what was originally approved with their various density classifications. Here's our proposed amendment to the plan. Again, it's 275 acres, taking out the art parcel to the north, and the 22-acre Lacey parcel is also an out parcel. This is broken down with approximately 157 acres of mixed density residential. That's that 1 to 10 DUs, and the 2 pods of multifamily, or we'll call it high density. I can't say it's going to be multifamily, but a higher density could be townhomes, duplexes, somewhere more of an attached type product. Located south central here next to the school site, and then in the northwest corner. We do have a regional commercial of 26 acres here along Mark Scheffel. That is, as Christy mentioned, going to be a large roadway and carries a lot of traffic, and that's where we typically like to see the commercial. In conjunction working with the fire department, we have identified and labeled on the plans as a safety center site to be dedicated with future developments at final plat to be given for whether that's a fire station, a police station, a combination, but that would be located here in the southwest corner of the site with access, quick access to Mark Scheffel. We do have 2 5-acre pods of the smaller village commercial that is located along Fontaine next to our arterial here, and then again in the northwest corner, 5 acres at Fontaine and future Autumn Glen, and that is next to the existing Widefield Water and Sanitation District headquarters. We have the 12-acre school site, and then as mentioned, we're providing, at least today, 46 acres of open space. We anticipate as we move forward that we'll get to incorporate more pocket parks and more internal neighborhood parks as the design lays out with internal residential streets, lot design units, and so forth. We do have the connection to Mark Scheffel, connection to Fontaine. This road, based on traffic volumes, is an arterial, most likely because of the commercial traffic that comes in and out that will be accessing that. This intersection lines up with existing Lorson Boulevard to the east. There is a planned roadway to the south as part of existing Glennet Widefield plans. I believe that's called Pennycrest. There is I believe this is called Silver Creek connection as well that runs north-south into the Glennet Widefield as well. And then at some point, as mentioned, we will build our portion of Autumn Glen. There is still a hole here, but that would eventually connect to Autumn Glen, then southward into Mesa Ridge Parkway. From a use standpoint, most of the site is predominantly that 1 to 10 DUs per acre, and why we have such a range is that allows us some flexibility with clustering some of the smaller lots, as small as that 3,800 square feet that's requesting, up to more of the traditional size lots of the 50 and 60 by 110. So it gives us some range in how we intermix those as builders come online and the design takes place through the detailed process. We've put the higher density internal to the project, so they're bordered by open space, collector roads, school site, and then up here internal to our development next to a smaller commercial and the existing Widefield Water and Sanitation District. So predominantly the site is that single-family detached residential development that we're requesting. From an open space standpoint, just kind of go through this really briefly because Christy did a good job explaining it. We are proposing about 46 acres, so we're a little short. So with that, we're required to do over $3 million of improvements. Part of the conversation with the Fountain Metro District was this corridor, this trail corridor they like to see west to east. So as, it's not shown on here because it's such a small line in buffer, but as we work through more detailed design, we'll make sure to incorporate either that trail through our development, whether that follows the drainage way or through an easement trail corridor along our southern boundary to get west to east. You can cross here at the future light at Mark Scheffel and Lorson Boulevard. And then just off page is the Jimmy Camp Creek Regional Trail that runs all the way into downtown Fountain. And then with the $3 million of improvements, again, that could be parks, open space, pavilion, shelters. And as we develop some of these larger pods, we do anticipate more internal parks. It's just hard to pinpoint those down without laying out the lots and as we move forward. I did want to kind of go over a quick comparison of what was approved existing on file today versus what we were proposing. Again, we're a little smaller, 275 versus 308, but you can see we have less residential acreage, even though we have the same amount of units. So our density is about 0.5 units per acre more. So it's about a half house more per acre from a density standpoint. We do have less commercial, 36 acres versus 69. 36 acres seems a more appropriate number, just given the number of rooftops out there and some of the longer growth of what's happening along Mesa Ridge Parkway, further north and south in the corridors. We do have a 12-acre school site, similar. The big difference I'd like to point out is the open space. The original approved plan is only providing 13 acres. We're providing nearly 3 times that with 46 acres. And then graphically, you can kind of see what that looks like graphically. The top is the existing site on file. The bottom plan is what we're proposing. The big change is probably here in this northeast corner. As you can see, the existing plan has this regional commercial in the northeast and flanking onto Mark Scheffel. We've removed that heavy commercial and replaced that with open space buffer as well as single family residential. Some of the neighborhood concerns we heard at Planning Commission were the traffic concerns. And we're working with the required agencies to, whether that's escrow, necessary improvements, connections, et cetera. Fencing, there were a lot of questions about fencing, whether this is going to be walled in or screen fence. At this time, I can't answer that. We do know we heard some of the concerns, so as we move into detailed design and preliminary plan, we can take that into consideration. I know staff is going to be cognizant of what the fencing looks like, and we can propose what we feel would be adequate fencing where those neighbors exist, or where open rail fencing might be more desirable. There were a lot of questions regarding fire and fire response time. Again, we've committed to giving a fire service or safety service center site on this plan. Will that be dedicated to the city when we go through that prelim plan final plat process? Buffers, I do have a slide, but we did add an additional 15-foot open space buffer to the northeast corner. That's on top of some existing open space, which I'll show in a second. And then again, regarding density, we did decrease from what was originally proposed at 1794 down to the 1180, because 1180 was what was approved existing on file. And then I would just like, this is a little zoom in of the northeast corner. This is the existing subdivision, Cottonwood Grove, to the northeast. We added the 15-foot open space buffer running north-south. That's in conjunction to an existing tract. It's hard to see, but this is the existing FMIC ditch that runs adjacent to these lots up to Fontaine. Then it essentially crosses Fontaine north and then Mark Sheffel again. So right now, to our property line, not including our buffer, you can see there's a 74-foot open space, 65-foot open space, and then it chokes down to a 38-foot open space, and that's in addition to the buffers and park spaces we're providing. To the south, where the commercial's proposed, that commercial was proposed back in '89 after the 1983 sketch plan for this subdivision, and that commercial development has to come in for future site development plan review. So at that time, whatever that use is going to be, there's going to be, I know, landscape buffers and setback buffers and building setbacks required at the time of that site-specific review. So with that, I'll happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from council on this? A lot of information. Go ahead, Ms. Thompson.
Just as a, to kind of set it in my mind, approximately what size lots are these right here you're showing us?
They range 20,000 square foot to, there's 13,000 square foot, 14,000, 15,000 square foot. Some of the large one here, you know, they're deep, so they're, let me see if I can look on my map. It's hard to see on this map, I apologize, but they're roughly, I think the smallest one is 12,000 plus up to 13, 14, 15,000 square foot, and then some of the, again, the larger cul-de-sac ones. These are public streets. They have attached sidewalk. They are served by, I believe, Whitefield Water and Sanitation District, so there's municipal services to these as well.
Thank you.
That development's currently in the county?
That is correct. If we go back, honestly, everything around us is county.
Right.
Except north, correct. Where, yep. So this is all El Paso County, and then City of Colorado Springs to the north.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Duncan.
So on the safety center, who proposed that?
It was a request, I believe, gosh, going back to a DRT meeting probably a year and a half ago. We have these meetings prior to submittal where staff gets police, fire, utilities, everybody in the same room. And at that time, I believe that's when it was brought up that there would be a need and or request for a fire safety center in this location. So we said, yeah, great, we'll give you what you need, where do you need it. And as shown was the location that was desired. And about 1.5 to 2 acres is the approximate size that we'd be looking at.
Okay.
Are you gonna man that station too?
You know, I would like to drive one of the...
I'm not trying to be a smart aleck here. I'm just trying to figure out, we have all kinds of people that have given us land, and we don't have the people to put on the land. So that to me is gonna be an issue. And the other thing is with that mutual ditch, are you gonna fence that away from the properties? There has to be something around that ditch, whether you put it in the ground. If you put it in the ground, I understand. But if you don't put it in the ground, you leave that ditch open, the development needs to pay to make sure kids don't get in there.
That we can look at in the future if it becomes an open ditch. I believe this is open right now, and I don't believe that's fenced, but I can't ascertain that for sure.
I don't-
There's nobody there to keep somebody from getting in that ditch.
And right now,
Over on the other side, on Apple Tree Loop, the developer there put a fence in along that ditch. to
Really?
Keep the people, huh?
I said, really? Oh, because Chilcott has no fence, and it's wide open.
That was one of the
And
things.
there's two schools that run right next to it, and it's not fenced in.
And
so-
I know Lorson Ranch, they piped the ditch, for example.
They did pipe it?
Yeah, the let's see.
All right.
This map shows it a little bit, but the ditch comes up and crosses approximately right here, and then is piped at some point south, and then does daylight again. It is piped through Lorson Ranch.
And you are talking with them now to?
That's correct. Yes. Yep. That's correct.
When would you have some more clarity on that?
When we come in, however the phasing works, there was a question on phasing. We don't know what the phasing is going to be yet, if we're going to work east or west. Depending on that phasing, for example, if we come in, just for an example here, if we come in here, we have some ditch here on site. So the ditch runs here, off site, comes back on site, comes off again, and then daylights again onto this property, out, and then daylights through this existing open space drainage way. So we have some considerations to work through, and as if we get to move forward with favorable decision here, we'd begin looking at some of those details to see how we could pipe it. If we can't pipe it, can we incorporate it into a buffered open space, for example, just to see what we could and couldn't do to make it safe and or an amenity to be used when it's not running, or we pipe it, then it gets it out of the way and still gets to where it needs to go north and then eastward.
But no clear, so it's more when you get further down the process, you'll know whether it's piped or not.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. Okay. Our intent right now is to pipe it. There's some engineering involved to make sure we can do that.
Yeah, okay. And unfortunately, Mr. Geek, with the safety center, it's like any others that are brought in. That's our job to figure out how we're gonna man those. Are we doing GID on this? Is GID a part of this? No, okay. Okay. All right, any other questions from council at this point? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Stand by. Okay. I do appreciate the fact that you worked on reducing some of the density, and so as proposed, if they just wanted to go with what is already approved, then they can just move with the 1,800 today if they wanted. Is that correct? So that's a lot to get rid of that doesn't usually occur with new development. So that's really surprising. Okay, at this point, we will go ahead and take public comment. If you do want to come up, the only couple things, we got to keep it. We're going to try to keep you around 3 minutes as much as possible. We have a lot of people here that want to speak to that. Secondly, when you come up, just please state your name for the record. Before you start speaking, anything else I'm missing? Yeah, we're not. This isn't going to be a free for all filibuster. We're not DC here. So if you're going to come up, please be succinct with your comments and questions, and we'll try to get them answered as best as we can. And as we move forward on that, I don't want the argument to start because it's not going to happen here. So, but other than that, first come, first serve. Again, just, please come forward.
Excuse me, my tea gets slow.
It's okay.
I'm Leonard Johnson. I live there on Weeping Willow, right there on the bottom corner there where you got that park. That's got to change. We don't want that around us. parks, schools, apartments, and I've been to every country there is in the world in the military. That equals one thing: drugs, criminals, and especially apartments. Put in your homes. That'd be great. I love neighbors. But that's all that stuff's got to go. The fire department, whatever, I don't think we really need that. They came out to my house a year ago and they were lickety split, completely satisfied with that. Just the apartments. I mean, I lived in the Pikes Peak Park since '94, and I'm telling you, right there off of Carmel, we lived off of Dogwood Street. With the apartments, and like I said, the apartments, the school, and the parks, it was cool for about the first 10, 20 years, but then about, I'd say 2008, 2009, when I got back from Iraq, it just went crazy. I mean, shootings. My street was on KRDO just about every other night, for someone acting stupid. But I just cannot understand, why do we need to put in more population there? Someone said at that meeting last month about housing crisis. Well, I'm looking on Zillow. There ain't no housing crisis. All these homes are for sale. Tell them to pick those. I mean, this is Zillow. What about Remax and the other guys? They're advertising theirs. It looks like there's plenty of homes for everyone. So I'm not trying to say don't. It just seems to me, what I'm noticing, people from other states who ruin their economy are moving here, and it seems like they want to inject their way here. Now, freedom for all, move in, but we're not testing these people. We're just letting them in, and we're seeing it. We're seeing a rise in crime. And for my last point to the police officers, again, I am so very sorry for this crap you guys had to go through this last year. It was unfair, and I want to apologize for that. So that's what I really got to say. I can't tell you what a person to do on his land to do, but it's just too many people in there. I mean, what's their backyards going to look like? Is just going to be a cement pad where they go out to, and maybe a barbecue grill? I got a half-acre lot. I got a garden and all that stuff. That park, that's one thing that concerns me. I live down there in that corner. The park there, that's where my garden is, right there on that fence line. And look, I'm old. I've seen death. I've seen everything. I don't want to wake up in the morning, go out and water my plants, and see a kid hunched over on the merry-go-round with a syringe. I mean, I just don't want to see that. I'm so fearful of that. I don't want children to get hurt. And that's just my 2 cents about it.
Okay, thank you.
Travis Semino. I've got 3 quick questions. One, have you approached any builders yet about the single-family residences? 2, if so, what kind of square footage are we looking at for these houses, and what income levels? And 3, are there going to be any affordable, like, rental properties or anything like that in that area? Thanks.
And we can have you come back up after everyone's spoken, then you can answer questions at that point.
Hello, my name's Andre Vigil. I live on Lot 4, 6590 Weeping Willow. I built my house back in 2000, whatever. I've had the privilege of having an excellent view for 20-some years. And I'm not here to tell you that you can't build or whatever, but I'm all about smart growth. And all them houses down there in Weeping Willow area are, the minimum one I think is about 1/4 of an acre. And you answered some questions, but he answered most of them. And I did see where he addressed fencing from the last time I talked to the commissioners, planning commission. He did increase a 15-foot buffer zone. That's fine. If that's what I'm gonna get, I'm gonna get that. But I want a concrete fence I would like to see a concrete fence, rephrase that, like they did at Larson. They built that fence before they did the development. When I was driving home today, they got that development over there on, like down towards Amazon building. And then they have another area that they're building on in Whitefield. And then if you look straight out there to Larson's Ranch at that school, that wind's blowing, and that's a dusty little minefield there. My house is right there on that ditch. I've been buddies with Ron Singer since I moved there, before that. And I've had his cattle in my yard. I've helped him do whatever, it doesn't matter. That used to have balloons land there. It's a beautiful area. I agree with the gentleman about the parks, but that's gonna be, I'm a neighbor. I don't live in Fountain. I live in unincorporated El Paso County. The sheriff's office comes to my house. The security fire department comes to my house, not Fountain Department. So the only monies they're gonna see from me is when I go to Safeway and do their bargain shopping, as far as your place. I have a lot of other issues, and that's another thing. You've had this master plan since 1989, and you tell me I have 3 minutes to discuss my issues with it? That's just not right, in my mind. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I say things not quite right. But 32 years for a master plan, we've got a Safeway, we've got a Lowe's, we've got a Sonic, we've got, I don't know how many people moved into Fontaine in that area. Now you take the road, Fontaine Boulevard. Let's just use that as an example. That road belongs to the city, okay? They haven't been able to repair that hole that other development did to come across it and put a sewer line to go across Fontaine. They've been there twice. I've already talked to the people there. I'm privileged to work with the county, so I know different people in the industry. Now they're getting ready to dig it up again because there was no oversight on that guy that built it. They just went with the cheap bid. And now they got that road. Now you're gonna bring in heavy equipment, all that stuff up and down that road, building materials, sod, and all that kind of stuff. That road's not equipped to handle it. And then the other side of it is I've lived here since 1969 in Fountain, and the city of Colorado Springs is notorious to take all their monies and revenues and it's going up north. They're not fixing our roads down here at all. And that little stretch of road there, what is it, 5 miles at the most?
Are you talking about Fontaine?
Yes, sir. The county snow plows it, not the city. I've put in requests at James at our DOT to do the potholes. Now they're finally saying, no, that's the city. So they're not even taking care of the potholes as it is. So that's just one issue there.
I think, who do you say, Fontaine?
There's a section of Fontaine that starts right at the beginning of Weeping Willow, a little bit up from Weeping Willow. That belongs to the county. You go up the hill, past Whitefield, up to the top of Powers, I call it the top of the hill. That now becomes state Powers. But that little stretch between there and there is city-owned.
City of Colorado Springs or City of Fountain?
Colorado Springs. It's all, and it even says there. It says it right there. I mean, and it's been like that forever, and the traffic is notoriously getting worse and worse. And that brings, excuse me for being a little jumping around, but this one road that this gentleman calls artillery, whatever, minor artillery, he's got right in and right out. You're gonna put 1,200 homes in there. I'm late to work, and it's gonna be faster for me to make a left turn on Fontaine than it is to go right and all the way around that place. Guess what's gonna happen? It's gonna take 4 people, 5 people seems to be the norm, for somebody to die before they put another street light in there. There's gonna be 20 street lights before I can get to the interstate to get to my job. That road just doesn't make sense to me, the right turn. And I understand you have to get into your little houses, and he even said the same thing. Well, we don't know if we're gonna cover the ditch, we don't know what goes on with track A, we don't know. There's too many variables there that needs to be addressed concrete. Like you look at Weeping Willow. You see the lot size, you see where they're at. Over here where this zone, parcel I, there's no lots. What is it gonna have, cul-de-sacs? I have no clue. How high are the buildings? Are they gonna be like the houses they built up there on Constitution and Acres? You reach out the door and you hand the guy a cup of coffee. Not the door, the side window. It's 5 feet.
Yeah.
And they're like 4 feet, 4 stories high. And they're this wide. That's not a pleasant view to me. And back to what I said again about smart growth. Phase those houses in. This here to me, and I'm just being the way I am, this is a money grab to put more houses in as small as a place as you can. Versus when Colorado was Colorado, I bought my piece of property, I got an acre. Wow. Now I'm gonna look out my acre and this guy's gonna be so high looking down in my backyard. That's not a pleasing view. It's not a resale view. It's terrible. And then to address his thing about the irrigation ditch, I come from Trinidad on a farm. We've got irrigation ditch, and I guarantee you there's gonna be a kid. That ditch right behind my house is taller than me, and when that water's flowing, it's moving. It looks like it ain't, but it's moving. And somebody's gonna get hurt, and they're gonna bury it, and then they're gonna have that little section there open. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't. And you're not gonna fight farmers' irrigation. That's that ain't never gonna happen. And they come in there with their backhoes and they clean it out, and I helped, and I call Ron and I say, hey, I'm gonna go get that tree out of there. And we get his backhoe or something, we grab a branch. These kids are gonna play thinking it's all okay, and they're gonna play with little boats and fall in there and they're gonna get hurt. And if they fall into that pipe, then what? I'm just telling you there's different things there's too many things here. And there's too many what ifs that the gentleman is saying. He goes, well, we might do this, we might do that. Well, this might, there's no even letter of interest on the commercial property. What are you gonna put in there? That property all around me up there has been designed for commercial business, and there ain't nobody moving in there. They ain't doing nothing, they're closing. The mom and pop shops are gone. And that commercial property ain't big enough for a mom and pop shop. I mean, it's too big. They can't afford it. I do appreciate the fact that the commissioners, and there was 2 of them that voted, and I really, really hope you guys will say, we're gonna put this on hold until you come up with, go for it, build it. I'm not gonna stop it. I'm one person with all the rest of us that live in that area. We don't have a prayer on stopping it, but at least we can get concessions. At least.
And you're right, and there have been a lot of concessions made, because if they were to build like it's already done now, no one would be happy with anything, so.
Exactly.
And so that's why we're going through this process, to be able to get some of those
And
concessions.
I appreciate that, but right now, from what I've heard and seen and everything, and with all the what ifs, it's not a viable concept. It's a vision, it has no plot, it has no lots, it has no.
Because we haven't made it to that point yet, and
Right.
that's why we're doing this here, so that we can get to those points where we can further determine what those are gonna look like.
And I hope that you guys put it out to the citizens, the people that live in this area, that there's some of us that might have crazy ideas, but there's some that if you look at it and you really think about it, between everybody, okay, we can agree on this. But after all my years of living in that house and my beautiful, that's an awesome view. I got Pikes Peak right out of my kitchen window, and I had the privilege.
Get you to, go ahead and finish your comments, so we can get others to speak.
Yeah, I'm done. I got it.
Thank you.
I'm just saying, please consider not approving it as is until you get more information to what's going on. And that right turn on that road there, like I said, it's gonna take 4 or 5 people to do that U-ey, and then they're gonna die, and then they're gonna do something, just like they did at Mark Shuffle with Larson's Ranch. It took like 3 or 4 people to actually die before they put a stoplight in. The traffic is overwhelming.
Yep.
And it's getting worse.
Across the county.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right.
My name is Rachel DeToy. I live on 6650 Weeping Willow. We're kind of down on a hill so that where they're developing is going to be up, looking down on our property. So that's nice. I wanted to just say some things about that little area. Have you guys ever driven that little area down Fontaine? You know, that's like a breath of fresh air. Anytime you're going in the city, anybody like going North Powers? Or do you like to come home to our little oasis? I feel like this is just overgrowing for me personally. We're losing the uniqueness that is Fountain, that is Security Widefield, that is that breath of fresh Colorado viewing air. So that's one of my main concerns, the devaluation of houses by the commercial lots. I know one guy's a realtor there. Stay with me, Applegate. I know I'm losing you. All right, so, and pollution, noise, crime, traffic. Hunting grounds. Just a couple weeks ago, we had a bald eagle. I saw it from my backyard. I was sitting on my back patio watching this bald eagle hunt those grounds. Just had a coyote come to my fence. I have chickens, which they're broody right now, which I don't care if they get eaten. You with me?
Poor lady.
Yeah. Well, you want me to rub ya?
I'm not ignoring you. I was stretching my.
All right, I feel like I'm losing you is all. All right, so Fontaine and the traffic, stoplights, potholes, all of that. Mr. Scott Trainer, your city manager, you said $100 million needs to go to these roads, but the city puts less than $1 million a year into them. You think it can handle a big old project like that, let alone Lorson Ranch blowing up like it is? You've seen the traffic on Fontaine in the mornings and afternoons? Come on. And again, with the notices from this developing company, the notices that they put up towards the land, have you seen those? No? They're about this tall and about this wide. You see that going 45 miles an hour down that road on a road that has no shoulder? And that is gone? Anybody else see the notices laying on the ground? Come on. I feel like there's a lot more people that would be here if they knew about it. We knew about it because we got the letters. Well, we know a lot of people in Lorson Ranch. And he said last meeting that our market shows that people want smaller yards and bigger houses. No, sir. No, sir. Why are they coming to my house? For the yard. Don't stop sardining us. That's all you're giving us, and that's why we want it, because we want to live in Colorado. What are we doing? Cookie cutter? Close proximity houses? How's that quality of living in Colorado? Come on. Also, where I work, we use the same CPA as Classic Homes. Classic Homes is now not even giving you a price to finance your home until it's framed in. What are you going to do? Are they going to do that as well because of the lumber prices, because of all this, whatever? What's going to happen? We are living above our means. Who's responsible for this? You guys are responsible for approving things, right? Throw a dog a bone. Where does Security Water or Security Widefield get their water? Is it from, I would like to know that. Because I do know that Fountain has put a hold on developments because of the water issue. They only have 8,700 or 9,000 taps, and developers are wanting 30,000. And Mr. Blankenship, you are quoted to saying that you cannot give something you do not have. There is a 2020 U.S. Geology survey that says the Colorado River has declined 20% in the last century. What feeds the Pueblo Reservoir? Isn't that where we go to for our water, fountain water? Where's Security Widefield get it? That's what I want to know. And how is it going to be like this in the future? The city would need to buy additional water rights, also need to be able to store and treat them. To approve a plan without looking at the devastation it could have on the future is irresponsible, it's immoral, and when Colorado's supposed to be on the forefront of that head, how can we conserve anything if we don't have it? Right? Also, sorry, I'm getting all shaky because I feel very adamant about this. Just without knowing for sure if we can sustain a project and others like it, you are setting our future generations up to failure. They will have enough to worry about with the way the economy's going, with the way other things are going. We're setting our future generations up for failure by packing people in here like sardines, let alone my view. Yes, my view is something to be jealous of. However, I'm thinking long term. I'm thinking of my children, my grandchildren. Where is the room? And when will it stop? I didn't move to Colorado for it to be California. You know what I mean? So those are my questions, if you got them.
Okay.
Rapid fire, my name's Rachel, I'll be in the back.
Thank you. Let me clarify a couple of points because I'm hearing kind of the same things as well. This isn't what we're going to approve tonight or disapprove, whichever the right word is for that, is an updated plan of what has already been approved. And so they can come in and do exactly what's already been done in there, and we have no say at that point. The ODP's already been approved back in 1989, is that what I'm hearing? And so by 1989 standards, we would not be in a very good spot if they decided to do that, which they're more than welcome to do that. They've committed to come in and update their standards to what current standards are as proposed or as enforced by the city of Fountain. They did ask at one point to get de-annexed into the county, but I could tell you in the county there's a lot less restrictions that they'd have to follow along with that. So it's better that they're in the city of Fountain, that we have a little more control over what's allowed and what's not allowed in the development. That's going to happen. So whether we approve it or don't approve it tonight, it's already been approved. I hope you all understand that. It's already been approved at 1,800 homes. It's been approved at all those different things, 1180, sorry. And so those types of things. And so, and this is, I think, an argument that comes up with every development that has been here. If my family, who owned a lot of the land around Walt Fortman area, saw what Fountain looked like today, I don't know what they would think. And so every development that we've had that has come in, the exact same concerns have been brought up. Unfortunately, it's the price of growth and those types of things that we have to deal with. So our job and our charge here is to manage it and get it to blend as best as possible. But again, as Mr. Vigil said earlier, the property owner does have rights as well, and they get to choose what they want to do with that within zoning and other regulations that we have. So just kind of keep that in your mind as we move forward in hearing more comments tonight. Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I mean,
And state your name for the record.
Travis Semino. So I'm kind of on the fence about this. I'd like, the extra tax revenue coming in from property values and that sort of thing. I live off of 85, 87, so I don't really have a view anyway. But, I mean, you're talking about an agreement, an approval that was made in 1989. I was born in 1988. This thing is almost as old as I am, and you're saying there's no way to disapprove it? Like, I'm a project engineer for the federal government at Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station. If I don't like what a contractor's doing, I go to my boss and say, terminate for convenience. Get the bleep out of this project, okay? And it's up to my boss to say whether he approves it or not. But there is a vehicle to get out of a shit project. There always is a way. We got a lawyer over here who, does loopholes for a living. He could probably find some kind of loophole or something
Mr.
like that to
Chimino.
get us out of this.
Go ahead and take a seat, thank you. All right, anybody else?
Good evening. My name's Tracy Herrera. I live in the Glen at 7023 Dutch Loop. Growth is inevitable, right? It's just going to happen. We can't stop it. Some concerns, though, because we live in Fountain and we love Fountain, and it is growing quickly, very quickly. Does anybody have any plans for growth on traffic management? We're going to continue to grow with these development plans. Traffic is a huge issue, and it's going to become worse down on that corner. And then my second concern is the school. And I'm not overly educated on how school funding works. Who's going to pay for that school? Is that put on to the taxpayers? Is that already funded through the school district? Is that something we have a say in? We all want schools. We need more schools. We're growing. We need more teachers. But how does that affect the people in the community, and how are we going to pay for these things? Like I said, growth is inevitable, but what is the city doing to accommodate all of this as well? Because already, I work at Fort Carson, and I'm going from the Glen. I have to leave 45 minutes early to get to the hospital to go to work as a nurse because of the traffic. And so just concerns as citizens, and thank you.
Thank you. As far as the schools, that does come through your property taxes that you pay to the school district. And the school district uses their money, how they budget that to build those schools. That's not a city issue on that. So, yes, you do pay for it. It's through your normal school property taxes that you pay yearly. And so they've got all that figured out. That's kind of normal thing for school districts to do. Traffic, it's a concern across the board. My commute out of here used to be pretty easy back in the 80s and 90s, and it's not anymore. And it's part of the inevitable growth that we've been dealing with. The city of Fountain has doubled in population in the last 20 years, and it doesn't look to be slowing down.
No, and we can see this is a problem from Pueblo to Denver.
It's
I mean,
Pueblo
it is.
to Cheyenne, really.
Yeah, I would like to see a belt route come in soon. But locally, for Fountain, these are some concerns that a lot of us have, and additional growth is going to add to these problems. So, just some concerns, and thank you for answering my question.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Lynn Schultz, and I live at 6680 Weeping Willow Drive. And a lot of what everybody has been saying, I'm behind them. I do want to say that I appreciate that they took some of the houses out, still a lot, more than I care to wrap my mind around. My question is around the area where the little tiny park is projected to be put, and there's this 15-foot buffer. I'm 5 foot, so there's 3 more of me, and that's not very much. We have a great view too. We get the cows in our backyard and feed the horse. We love it. It's going to be sad to see it all go. Grandkids are going to hate it as well. I can't stop the growth either, but I'm just concerned, and hoping that maybe they can relook at that, and maybe put a little more buffer there. It'd be really nice if all I had to see was some tops of some houses and still maybe see the mountain, have a sense of privacy, because once it starts, there's not going to be privacy, and I'm sure others are feeling the same way. And who's going to maintain these little parks if they do, come about?
If they stay, if there's not a metro district in the city, it falls under the city to take care of the parks.
Okay, and if there were issues going on there, would there be a number we know we could call and say, hey, like the concern of the one gentleman? I didn't even think about that.
Yep. If it's
and
a
it's
park
gonna be
issue,
back up.
aesthetically or something like that, you would call the Parks Department. If it's police issue, you call the police department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Lohman. I live at 7830 Whipple Place, and I have a question about the family units, the multifamily units. Are you receiving federal money to build those? And and also, are they what are they going to, what socioeconomic level are you expecting to move into those apartments? Or will it be like the Mesa Ridge apartments, or is it going to be more affordable for lower income?
Okay, thank you. And I think that's a question that needs to be answered later on as they get further into the project. And it's not a guarantee they're going to be apartments either. I think he kind of mentioned it could be apartments, it could be townhomes, could be duplexes, those types of things. And so it just kind of looks, it really, the market will drive that when we get to that point. It'll be up to whoever to really push the issue around affordable housing for the low income. Once we get to that point, we can definitely do that. I think really kind of help that issue along if we can, because that is something that has been a big hot topic lately in growth. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Joel DeToy. I just want to bring up a couple things. I have a friend that lives in Lorison Ranch. He pointed out to me that his taxes where he lives are $3,400 and where mine's closer to like $1,400. So that's taking care of the school and everything else, that all that went into that development. On the school, when that thing was finished, they didn't actually account for all the military and the families that were here. So that school was built. Millions of dollars went into it, and they didn't have enough room for all the kids that lived in that neighborhood. So something to consider. Also would like to know, what is the duration of this development plan? Is this a 30-year plan? When can we expect this thing to be actually done? And when am I losing my view? And if you could, do ours last. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. On the school, that'll be the school district that determines that. That's not on the builder. They just provide the land. And then when it's time to build a school, the school district's the one that actually builds it. That'll be a discussion when they decide to start building, and that comes forward through their school board on that issue. Okay, growth is hard, especially when you're in a well-established neighborhood. You have a plan of what your life is going to look like when you move in there, and things change really fast. I can tell you that the majority of natives that live here in Fountain feel the exact same way. And you know what? We've all had to deal with it, and we've moved through with it. And you know what we've done here on this council and previous councils is try to make it a better transition. It's not easy. It's not fun. We don't like it, but it's a natural, not a natural, it's what's occurring there locally. Again, we have some say in some of the things that we can provide and ask for from the applicant as they move through these processes. I'm glad that they've decided to come to us with a new ODP, if I'm using the right term there, instead of using the one from 1989, because there's a lot more things that they've done to help buffer this thing. Again, I understand that it's not something that you guys were looking forward to or hoping it would never happen, but you know what? The singer sold, and they knew exactly what they were selling to, and it's just the nature of what we're dealing with along this whole eastern corridor, probably going out miles east as well. There are some major developments coming out east that are on their way, and the lady spoke earlier about the water issue. We paused because with 30,000 all of a sudden coming in, we don't have enough water for 30,000 new taps. So we've got to figure that out. But that's going to occur not only in the city of Fountain, but as well in the county and Colorado Springs. Water is going to be an issue that's going to drive a lot of this. And water companies and utilities are working their hardest to figure this out. But a lot of the water utilities and companies, not a lot of them, but are requiring more and more that those developers, if you're going to come in, you need to bring the water with you, because we're not going to burden current ratepayers, current water people with those newer problems. So that is something that we're working on. We do have, you know, what we have, and that's what we're working on. We have a water master plan that's in the works, and that'll help us further determine what that growth is going to look like. But I can tell you, I sat in a meeting last week with regional mayors, and this is a concern, not only water, but growth. Again, in this area, we all talked about just the numbers of units and things that are coming in on the region, and it's astounding to see what's happening in this county and in this state. And again, I remember when I was in high school, and my one of my social studies teachers said they're planning a mega city from Cheyenne, Wyoming, all the way down to Pueblo, and I thought, no, that'll never happen. And here we are today, and it's pretty much happening. And so, you know, we're going to do our best to alleviate what that growth impact is going to look like. But with growth comes those ills that also come along with it, that we've a great staff of great people that work hard to plan for those things, like traffic, like water, like crime, like schools, and all those things that we need to take care of in moving forward. So, you know, our commitment is that we're going to keep working on that, and future councils are going to, you know, this is always an issue when it comes to election time, and, you know, how are you going to manage growth as it comes in? That was the big ticket item when I ran almost 16 years ago, is how are you going to provide and work with growth? And I think we've done an okay job. It's inevitable, unfortunately, and we live in a very popular place that people want to move to. I just visited Florida, where in the town we were staying in, I thought it was a small town, and I come to find out it's one of the largest towns in Florida that has exploded in growth, much like it has here. And they're dealing with the same issues down there, and it doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it any better, but just know that this is occurring across the country. So I want to give the applicant an opportunity to answer questions that came up. And then Christy, you can finish this up.
Oh, I was just going to bring
When we're
something
done.
up before he starts, though, in
Oh.
terms of the development process stages. Excuse me.
Okay, go ahead.
So the overall development plan is really at a 1,000-foot overview. You're looking at it from a bird's eye view of what the land use and densities would look like. As it moves through an entitlement process, it goes through a subdivision review, which goes into a little bit more detail, where you're outlining the grading, the drainage, and much more of where the lot layout would look like. When the houses are ready to go vertical, or commercial development is ready to go vertical, is where you're really looking at the nitty-gritty. So this is at the first high-level stage of it. There is still a multi-level review that will go into any development, not just this. But I wanted to do a brief, super brief, educational for the audience in case they weren't aware of how that development process occurs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Jason Allwine, Matrix Design Group. To continue with that, the reason we don't have some of these answers is because we don't know. We can't, as developers, go sell a plot of land or market something if we don't know that the sandbox we're sort of playing in. So yes, we understand there's questions about lot size and square foot size of houses and heights and colors. Yeah, we can't answer because we don't know. I can't go sell 100 units to somebody not knowing whether or not we're going to be able to do that. So as we move forward, the next step with the prelim plan, a lot of those things become more clear. How we're going to deal with the FMIC ditch, whether or not it's piped or opened or fenced or whatever, safety considerations. We're going to know whether we have 3,800 square foot lots or 8,000 square foot lots, and where those locate. We'll know it a little bit more detail because we'll have detailed design of roads, how big our buffers are. There was a question about the 15-foot buffer to the northeast. Well, that's in addition to the 65 and 75 that exists, so it goes anywhere from 80 up to 90 foot in that northeast corner. Question about builders and square foot and affordability versus attainable. Again, questions we can't answer. When it comes to housing, we're in a housing crunch across the nation. You hear it, and there's other things involved with supply chain issues and COVID and how that affect that. But some of that is there is a lack of housing. We've had, I think, Ms. Thompson, you mentioned you went to the Housing Forum for All or something. There's been several series on that and talk about there's no one solution. There are many solutions that need to occur, And this is hopefully a project that is part of that solution by offering a range of sizes that is perhaps more attainable on a smaller townhome type, call it a starter home, or even, a downsize, up to smaller lots the smaller lots require less water. There is concern about water. So I'll try and go through some of these questions, but yes, from a concept level, this is the big picture. This helps define what we can do moving forward and what sort of rules we have to play with, and then take some of the consideration we have. There are several code requirements we also have to meet to refine that design to hopefully present again in the future a successful project. With regard to build out, this is probably a 3 to 10 year build out, depend on several things. One, the economy. Right now things are cooking pretty good, but we go ups and downs. So takedowns may slow down. From a commercial standpoint, we agree the first plan had 69 acres of commercial. That's not sustainable unless we get another 30,000 people out there. So we've cut that nearly in half. And with the population that's happening with Future Bay and Lewis Ranch, that 30 acres or so of total commercial is a pretty good number. Now that will take some time to develop because we need some of the rooftops to sustain that brick and mortar. We do have several clients that believe brick and mortar is coming back. Yes, there's a lot of online shopping, but brick and mortar is still going to be a strong market in the future. Regarding the school site, we had the option to do fees in lieu of or give land. The school district wanted land because, as a gentleman mentioned, schools are already kind of building out capacity, so they want to be able to build a school site when they need it as this development comes online, as Lorson Ranch continues to develop, and as the remaining phases of the Glen at Widefield directly to our south continue to develop. Regarding traffic, there's a lot of questions on traffic. I know the city of Fountain is involved in this. Carroll Springs, there's a master traffic planning going on today, and it's not an overnight solution. So those plans are in the works. How they affect this, One Fontaine is part of that. This isn't a single project issue. This is a bigger issue that we know is being discussed. We have CDOT run Powers Boulevard, we have county run Mark Scheffel, and we have city run Fontaine. So there's a lot of jurisdictions, City of Fountain is involved in these discussions on what to do with traffic, how to improve our roadways and improve those connections. So those studies are happening. Regardless of this project, those studies are happening today, whether or not this project gets approved or moved forward. Regarding kind of the price of homes, we don't know what those sales are going to be. Water supply, again, Widefield Water Sanitation District, they have committed to serving this development. Where they get their water from, I can't speak to what that is. I'm sure it's a variety of wells or systems or acquisitions they have. If we need to provide more detail at the next conversation, we can certainly get that, but they've provided our commitment letters. Kind of go through this a little bit. Talk about density, and being a greedy developer. We think this plan is better than what was approved in 1989. It keeps the 1,180 max was approved on a little less acres, yes, but we're also adding, 33 more acres of open space, including buffers, and we think that helps with the overall community in general. It brings a better community. With these smaller lots, we've seen elsewhere in the county and city, if we want a smaller lot, we want more parks and open space. Folks are willing to live at that smaller lot, but I want to be able to go somewhere. So, and we are taking the right steps to provide those open space outlets. There was a question about the parks. Those are going to be owned and maintained by the Metro District. They're going to be built by the Metro District, they'll be owned by the Metro District, and they'll be maintained by the Metro District.
No. We're, okay. We're not taking comments like that.
He lied to you. Did he not just lie to him?
Well, I'm not sure the parks.
Yeah, no, you need to stop.
You said, sir.
Sir.
Come on, man. All I'm saying is lying, and you're letting him get away with it.
There's been no line.
Sure
Thank you for your.
He just told you the economy's okay.
Regarding notices, there's code requirements. We pick the notices up. There are mailings. So we were given as far as the notice, we're on site. Buffer. There are some questions on fencing. Again, we can address fencing. Whether I know some folks may want concrete fencing, some folks may want open rail fencing. So we can discuss some of those details as we move forward. road repairs, the FMIC ditch. I think I covered most of those. I don't know if there's anything I may have missed from a council standpoint.
Go ahead, Sam.
I've got one thing, and this is in regards to the levels or the heights. If you're gonna do a bunch of ground moving like they did in the Glen, the people that live in Peaceful Valley, they had views of the peak too, and no longer have those views because those guys went in and did a bunch of dirt work and moved everything up. So my concern is, and I think these people got a reasonable, if you're gonna do that stuff, don't do it right around those houses. Is there any way you can keep the ground level close to the same as theirs so they don't feel like they can't see the peak?
That's a good question. It's something we can look into.
That's my only
yeah,
concern.
understood. Thank you.
I mean, I understand, we have no choice here. It's going to happen. But if you don't want that to happen, you gotta buy the property. And unless they wanna buy the property, I guess it's gonna happen. But is there any way that you could work with them to make that seem less evasive?
We can look at that, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else before I close the public to be heard? Oh, sorry, Ms.
Okay.
Duncan, sorry.
We had, in the planning commission, a 4-2 vote, and the two said it was too dense and need more community engagement. So what are you doing to address that?
So
They, I was gonna say, they dropped, what, 600 in the density?
correct.
Right, but the community engagement part.
Correct. So we had a conversation with staff and internally and felt because we were making several concessions regarding adding additional buffering open space and drop of the density that we were trying to accommodate and compromise on some of the bigger concerns we heard. And this didn't, I guess, pursue a neighborhood meeting because we're trying to address with the resubmitted plan some of the major concerns regarding buffering and regarding the density.
So you're having more community meetings?
No, ma'am. We didn't have a community meeting because we were addressing their comments. We heard their concerns on density, so we dropped it by 600 units. And we added the buffer to the northeast was not there on the original plan. So we added that buffer and we dropped the density in response to those neighborhood concerns. And then, traffic is a much bigger picture, of course, and so forth. So we did not have that neighborhood meeting because we felt we were trying to address their bigger concerns. We just addressed them, or we were attempting to address them.
And Ms. Duncan, so that you know, we can't force folks to have those meetings. We recommend those meetings. But this was one where we've had so much community engagement through the Planning Commission. We had about 40 folks, both virtually and that showed up online as well. And because they did address those specific details, again, we can't force them, but we highly recommend. But this was a case where there has been so much engagement, much more than we've seen in a lot of others. And really, when you talk about who this impacts, it's this neighborhood who's really been engaged so far is really the one that it majorly impacts.
Because the reason I asked is because when I was on planning commission, it was the same input from the community. So I feel that if, not forcing anyone, but if they were to address, have a community meeting, then you wouldn't have such angry or, so many boisterous people that they can get it out at the community meeting and not, and feel that they're being heard.
Understood.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything else? For me? Okay. Oh, sorry, Sharon, I'm sorry. I even said, yeah, when she's done, and I spaced it, sorry. Go ahead.
Christy, there might be a question more for you. One of the comments that somebody made was they were concerned about the right-in and the right-out.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. I had that written down, and it was even flagged in red. I apologize. Good question. So that ride-out occurs right here in this commercial pad. It is not, so this is our arterial that connects Mark Shuffle up to Fontaine based on projected traffic volumes with off-site and internal traffic. This intersection, we'll call it Arterial A in Fontaine, will be a full movement intersection, meaning you can turn westbound south, eastbound south, westbound out, and then eastbound out. The right in, right out in question is at this intersection right here at this small commercial. So if you're traveling northbound, you can only go right in, right out to the commercial. We worked with Brandy Williams on that. She did not want a full movement She did not want this to be full movement intersection because of the proximity to Fontaine. The other consideration is we did not want all of the potential commercial users having to drive through a neighborhood street. So the right in, right out is only for this 5-acre commercial parcel right here. There's no access to Fontaine.
Can we do it again? Can we do it again slower?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
So I think that let me help. I think the thought, and I don't know, because I was confused as well. I was thinking that the right in, right out was on Fontaine.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I was very concerned about that.
It is not. That's a
It's
full
not.
movement intersection.
It's south on that
It's-
new to be named
You're-
road.
It's
they-
right.
Can you use not engineering terms? Because full movement intersection really means nothing to this.
Yep, full.
Okay.
Yep, full movement intersection is a good question. Is meaning, think of like a 4-way stop out here. All points can go any direction. They can go straight, they can go right, they can go left at all points. This intersection, now it's a T, so bear with me a little bit. All movements can go any direction they want to. They're not restricted to go, for example, right only or left only. They can go any direction they want.
On Fontaine.
From our arterial A onto Fontaine. The only restriction is internal to the property right here, this small arrow. This is a right in, right out only. Think like a little pork chop that gets built.
It's kind of like at Comanche, right, like Mr. Coke's, where his is a right. You can only go that one way. Same thing there. But when you get to 85, 87 and Comanche, it's a full.
Right.
Yeah, so the right in, right out's not going to affect
Okay,
Fontaine
well, my
at all.
concern was that was going to be on Fontaine.
And it's not.
And it's not on Fontaine because I knew if it was going to be that way, you're going to have people flipping around in their neighborhood. You're going to have semis flipping around. in their neighborhood.
100% agree. That you're absolutely correct. Yes, you're correct. That is only for this parcel. And just to clarify and note, other than this access point, arterial A, and then future Autumn Glen, there is no direct access onto Fontaine from our parcels. They're all being funneled into these interior roadways.
Okay. And I know, I'm feeling very old here tonight. I know we like land. We like land. But my daughter and the generation under her, they're happy with the smaller lots. They don't want to spend every weekend working on their yard. They would rather have a community garden that they didn't have to take care of because it's part of the community garden is the socialization that goes along with it and the friendships and things that develop from that. So it's very foreign to me to see someone be interested in a 3,800 square foot lot, but they're selling. They're selling everywhere. My concern with the smaller lots becomes, with smaller lots seem to come narrower streets and lack of parking on those streets. And so my concern is if the streets, and you may not be able to answer this tonight, but just in general, that the streets don't get so narrow that if you have people that park on both sides, the fire truck can't get through. And there are some places up by Circle Drive when the people come home in Circle south of Martin Luther King bypass area. Some of those neighborhoods are so narrow, because my son went to school up there, that when the people park there, there's no way a fire truck could get through because I can hardly get my car through. So the roads is very important to me for public safety and just quality of life issues. So don't necessarily shrink down the streets
I can
to
answer,
go
I can
along
answer
with the
that
smaller
concern.
lots.
So right now, all of these streets in gray, and then all of our what are known as residential streets, local streets, all of those will be designed and built to City of Fountain public street standards. So we'll have to meet those cross-section widths for pavement mat to allow for on-street parking, sidewalks, easements, et cetera. So all of those will be public roads built to the current standards.
So that would be.
Well, part of the other thing they're doing though, like up in the farm, is they're making only the parking on one side of the street, and then you have to park like 4 blocks away if you have more than, one car in your driveway. And they will come through and ticket you very quickly if you park on the wrong side of the street. So it makes it very difficult, you know, again, when people are home, the kids are home from school and different things, and those are just things that I think are important. If you are gonna do denser units, we need to think of the different quality of life, all of it as part of it, so.
Ms. Thompson, I think on that, we warn them of what we want, but then keep staff on, that we don't want the small.
And I can assure you, staff will keep us on our toes.
Yep.
I'm just taking my opportunity.
No, thank you, and thank you for the questions. I do appreciate it.
Okay. All right, again, I know this is not fun on either party, either side of this. This is oh, sorry, Ms. Duncan, go ahead.
Just one more question. One of the gentlemen asked about the length of time, and I don't know if we were told that.
The length of time.
For the development.
Yeah, that's like a 3 to 8 years, kind of depending on the takedowns.
He did give us a lot of
Well, 3 to 8 years from this point. I mean, it started back in '89, so.
So you know 30.
Well, I mean, there are developments when I was first on planning commission 16 years ago that you know brought in 600 homes, and it's still open field today. But I'm hearing that they're coming up all of a sudden again. So you know these things can take off like barnstormers or not. It's really market dependent. You know, a lot of what Ms. Thompson said about what people are wanting. I personally live on 3 acres. I don't want anyone near me. I used to live in a neighborhood and I loved it, but my wife changed my mind. And I don't know why someone would want to live that close, but it surprises me. And I've gotten into many arguments with developers and that I don't like it because of traffic, because of those things. And the market pushes this. And when I say market, it's people. And they come in wanting things that are different than what I want. And unfortunately, that's where we live today, and so we'll continue pushing the issues as best as we can, and make it as responsible as possible. And I think we've got a staff that are experts in what they do, and they do a really good job of making sure that developers know what our standards are here in the city of Fountain. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and barring any further discussion from council, we do need to take action on this item. Mr. Applegate.
I move to approve ordinance number 1764 on first reading, subject to conditions.
All right. And Mr. Geek?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and second for approval. Please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break. right, thank you. All right, we are on to item 9C. I'm opening a public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 1765, an ordinance approving a request by Martin Inc. on behalf of Ronald Mitchell Green and Gail Lynn Green Family Trust for approval of an overall development plan for the development known as StoreQuest Express for property generally located at 1142 Fountain Mesa Road, hereinafter more specifically described in Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Ms. Serrano.
Thank you, Mayor. And also Miss Torres, I just got married on Saturday, so I'm so excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Torres?
Yeah.
Okay,
So with two R's, just like Serrano, with two R's.
Torres.
Thank you. So good evening, Mayor and Council members. I will be presenting the StoreQuest Express overall development plan. The property is located at 1142 Fountain Mesa Road, and the property is on Plan Unit Development District. This is a request for the approval of 5.42 acres for an overall development plan. Just a little bit of history. In 2008, an overall development plan was approved for this property. At that time, the overall development plan that was approved was for a caretaker, offices, and self-storages. There were several conditions of approval that were imposed due to the proximity of the residential next to this property. So the conditions that were imposed with this overall development plan were that the building permits will need to be, that the buildings will need to be of stucco, and also there should be a buffering of landscaping between the residential and the self-storage buildings. So those were the two major conditions that were implemented in the 2008 overall development plan. At this time, the current property owner is selling the property to a self-storage company by the name of StoreQuest. The future property owner is doing some amendments to the overall development plan. The proposed use will remain as a self-storage facility. However, they are proposing 12 storage buildings at this time. The buildings along the outside of the project will be stucco finish. They will also be screened they will also have a screening of a metal of a 6-foot high fence. Landscaping will also be proposed along all sides of Fountain Mesa Road and the extension of Comrade Drive, and also in between the residential and the self-storage project. No outside storage will be permitted on the property, and the caretaker use that was proposed in 2008 will be eliminated as well. As you can see here, this is the proposed overall development plan. The applicant is proposing 594 units and 12 buildings. They're also going to have 63,460 rentable areas. The image in the bottom is the previous ODP that was approved in 2009. At the time, the applicant was proposing 260 units with 9 buildings, but they were proposing 81,000 of rentable areas. So the rentable areas in 2009 was actually larger than what they're proposing now at this time. The open space will be located, like I mentioned earlier, along Fountain Mesa Road and Comrade Drive, the extension of Comrade Drive. And there will also be a buffering of 15 feet from the residential to the self-storage use.
Okay, can you point to me Fountain Mesa Road again? I'm sorry.
Sorry, right here.
Okay.
And this is the Comrade Drive extension.
Okay.
Also, I would like to mention that 50% of the landscaping along Fountain Mesa Drive and Comrade Drive will be all evergreen. And staff has worked very hard with the applicant with their landscape plan, their site plan, to make sure that the 50% of evergreen has been implemented on those two sides. I would also like to touch base on access. Access will be located, there are 3 accesses on the property. The main access will be along Fountain Mesa Road. There will be another access in Fountain Mesa Road in the northwest corner that is going to be only used for emergency access, and it will be only for a one-way access area. And also there's also the fire department requested an emergency access along Comrade Drive as well. I already touched base on access. The next point I want to talk about is the parks and open space. Per code, all the PUDs that are proposed as commercial, they are required to have a minimum of 15% of commercial, 50% of landscaping or open space. This plan meets the requirement per code. The drainage, just to touch base a little bit about the drainage, the property is located in the Jimmy Kemp Creek drainage basin. And staff is evaluating with the city engineer a drainage report and to make sure that if there are any drainage fees that will need to be collected after this development, after the site plan is approved or any building permits are issued. Services, City of Fountain will be providing the water, the electric, the fire, and police services. Black Hills will be providing the natural gas on this project, and Fountain Sanitation District will be providing the sanitary sewer service. The City of Fountain Water Department has confirmed that they have the ability to serve this project. Also, I would like to mention that the applicant had a neighborhood meeting. We had a different type of neighborhood meeting. It was not a public forum, but it was an online presentation that the applicant worked really hard to put together. That online neighborhood outreach was available for 6 days for any resident to comment on the project. City staff did notify residents within 400 feet of the property to make sure that they're aware that there's this neighborhood meeting going on. We did not receive any comments in regards to the project. In regards to the comprehensive development plan, the future land use of this property is depicted as single-family residential. City staff understand that it's not consistent with the comprehensive development plan. However, this project, the self-storage facility meets the land use policy of the comprehensive plan because they are using landscaping to buffer the uses between the residential and the commercial. And staff recommends and feels that they are meeting the land use policy of the comprehensive development plan. City staff finds that this overall development plan is consistent with the review criteria of code. Staff recommends approval of this ordinance on first reading, and we have 2 conditions that we would like to add to the project. The first one is that a site development plan must be approved prior to the issuance of building permits, and then also all the required easements must be dedicated and recorded prior to the approval of the plans. Any questions for me at this time?
All right, any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Applegate.
Yeah, this area immediately to the north of there, is that a road?
Yes, there is like a.
Not very clear on this.
Yes, there is like a private road there. So the project is not directly adjacent to residential. There's the self-storage project, and then there's a road here, and then right here it's a residential community.
So what's this road here? It just feeds this property.
Right, so Cormoran will connect with the other Cormoran to the north.
Yes.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I own a self-storage facility. So my only question is concern about being that close to a neighborhood, owning a facility. I know how noisy the doors can be, and people don't tend to be the quietest when they're moving in and out. So is it going to be a 24-hour access facility, or is it going to be, because I think that would not be good neighborhood.
You can answer that when you come up,
Okay,
Yeah.
so, okay.
just so we have them on the record. Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Torres? All right. Okay, if applicant you can come on up and answer any questions, or if you have anything you'd like.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Suddarth. My address, I don't know if we're stating that.
Your name
Okay.
is correct, it's good.
Okay. So congratulations, Gabby. I didn't know that, but congratulations, and it's been a pleasure working with Gabby and Christy over the last year or so. They do an excellent job for you guys.
Yep.
So with that said, my name is John Suddarth. I'm Vice President of Real Estate with the William Warren Group. The William Warren Group is actually the ownership company behind StoreQuest Self-Storage. We own and operate roughly 200 facilities around the country. We have roughly 30 in the Front Range of Colorado, operating under the StoreQuest brand. You can see here some of our markets, and then these are our locations along the Front Range. We have a few of the turquoise dots or properties that we hope to start in the near future. One on the northeast side of Colorado Springs, and then the other one obviously down in Fountain. And then we operate a facility, an existing facility in Manitou Springs, which is the nearest facility to Fountain. So tonight we're here to talk about the StoreQuest Express project that we're proposing on 1142 Fountain Mesa Road. Here are a few examples of recently built StoreQuest Express properties. The general idea is to have kind of a clean, secure, modern self-storage facility. We build some of the high-rise properties on some of the inner cities that are anywhere from 3 to 6 stories in height, but the SQX program or StoreQuest Express is generally single story, kind of fits in a little bit more. And to answer your question, we will be not a 24-hour facility. It'll be 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'll dive in a little bit more on that in just a second. So obviously, I assume most people on the council know where the site is located. It's 5.45 acres, just about 5 minutes from here up Fountain Mesa Road. We were at the site earlier this evening. I probably made half a dozen visits or so to the site over the last year, working with our team and our engineers to kind of craft and develop a site plan. Obviously here's the location of the property. So why do we like the Fountain market was the question that was asked at Planning Commission, and it's a valid question. And one of the things that we do, we're very diligent in our market research. We do as much market research as probably anybody in the self-storage industry. And if one of the council members owns a self-storage facility, hopefully they're doing well. But our research seems to indicate that the storage facilities around here are doing well. We actually verified. We look at what's called the square foot per capita, which means the amount of existing self-storage per person in that area. And right now there's roughly 46,000 people within a 3-mile trade area of this site. There's roughly 190,000 square feet of self-storage. So if you take 190 and divide that by the population, that's just over 4 square feet per capita. So you want to have a number that's below the national average or below the metro average. In this case, at 4.1, this says 5.3, but that 5.3 includes if our facility's built. So even if the self-storage facility is built, as we're hoping to do, at 5.3, we're still well below the Front Range average of 7.7 square feet per capita. And then we also verified at the existing facilities nearby occupancies as of today. We weren't able to obtain occupancy at one of the nearby facilities, but the other of the 3, two of them were at 100% occupancy. The other was at 99%. There's 1 vacant unit on their website. And then the 4th, we were not able to obtain that occupancy. So in our opinion and what the market is telling us, there's certainly demand locally. People always ask who are the users of self-storage, and people always ask me this when, at various events. It's interesting because the majority of the people that are renting self-storage facilities are people that are have a life event need. Somebody that's just bought a house, somebody that's moving, somebody that's doing a home renovation. If you can think about the times that you may have used it, a new job, a new baby. In my case, 3 new babies in the last 5 years. So anyhow, Yeah, right. The reason I have bags under my eyes. But the majority of our tenants are residential users. The nearest facility to this facility is about 1.5 miles away. And as I mentioned before, there's only 4 other competitors within a 3-mile radius, which is pretty low. One of the other questions that came up during our Planning Commission hearing on June 2nd was what markets are relatively similar to Fountain with regards to this military presence, because we know that Fort Carson is nearby. It's a couple miles away. It has, correct me if 25,000 or so soldiers and another 35 or 40,000 family members. So it has a huge presence here. And Manitou Springs is obviously influenced by that. We also operate a store that I was part of developing in the Seattle area in Federal Way, just next to McCord Air Force Base. Vista, California, Carlsbad, El Paso, Honolulu, Waipahu, Hawaii, Oxnard, California, just north of Los Angeles, and then obviously in Aurora near Buckley Air Force Base. Here's a few examples of our recently opened product. The intent is to have a secure, well-lit facility with a clean design, nothing too outrageous. Here's another example of a recently opened store in Palm Coast, Florida, and another store in Tracy, California, just outside of Sacramento. Here's the site in its current condition. It's generally flat. The area on the top right is the road that was being discussed just a moment ago. I believe it's called Fountain Mesa Heights Road. It's actually a private road that leads back to the property to the east. So we won't be accessing that road unless, I believe, for fire reasons. But with that being said, it's generally a flat site, which actually ended up offering more challenges than we expected, because we're often looking for ways to grade the site, but with the site this size, trying to drain this type of site was obviously a challenge, and we're working with that with the civil engineering department at the city. And we've come to a good solution. So again, I won't touch too much on this and bore everyone, but in 2008 and 2009, the city originally approved this ODP at 81,000 square feet, rentable square feet, which is about a 25% increase over the 62,000 that we currently have planned for the site. We originally had outdoor RV surface parking, but the staff made it very clear that that was not something that they wanted to see in this neighborhood, so we removed it from the site plan. Here's the original ODP from 2008. Here's the revised ODP, and we're currently going through the site development plan process for this. I believe we actually submitted our building permits today to the Regional Building Authority. So the intent would be to hopefully, if everything moves forward, start construction later this fall. As Gabby mentioned, this site is roughly 62,000 square feet, 592 or so units. 35 parking stalls are required. We're providing 35 parking stalls. We're widening Fountain Mesa Road in front of the site. Only exit only on the northwest corner, and then also on the northeast corner. So the primary access point will be on the southwest corner of the site. Oh, and one other thing I should touch on is the water detention on this site. This is one of the other reasons that we really had to bring the site back, or the ODP back in front of City Council, is because we're bringing the site development plan up to current code. And with this current code, this detention, you can see the detention pond in the southeast corner of the site. It's a pretty sizable pond, and it will be all the water will be flowing off of this at roughly half the rates of what it does today. So that's a pretty significant reduction in water runoff to the south. Here's an example of just a rendering of what we envision the site to be when it's opened. A view looking from the northwest to the southeast. You can see the road and all the buffering that we've provided. We did a photometric plan which would minimize the light spillage off of the property. Here's an aerial view looking to the northeast from the southwest, excuse me. Not sure there will be that many pedestrians out there, but still somewhat representative.
People have been waiting for that sidewalk for a long time.
I believe it. So there are actually more pedestrians out there than you would think. So So here's just a slide that I might touch on for a moment, because this is really what we heard at the Planning Commission and what we thought we should address tonight. So traffic impacts, people were really concerned about traffic. So we engaged our traffic engineer at TSI to go out and actually take a survey of our Manitou Springs property, which is very similar in style and size. It's a little smaller, so we adjusted that upwards. But when you adjust that upwards, we're looking at 68 vehicles per day, or 68 visits per day. So that's 34 cars coming in throughout the duration of an entire day. So that's 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., that's 16 hours. If my math serves me correctly, that's one visitor coming in every 30 minutes and then leaving another 30 minutes. So that's one visitor every 15 minutes. That's one visit every 15 minutes, but one visitor to the property every 30 minutes, if you will. So, and then the other concern was the size of the vehicles that are coming in. As a storage owner, you probably know that the very vast majority of the vehicles that come to the property are actually just traditional cars and vehicles and trucks. They're not the large 18-wheeler trucks that people often stereotype with self-storage. That's actually less than 1% of the users that come to our facilities. Military towns, we touched on that just a moment ago. Some of the other towns that we operate in that, they're not exactly sister cities to Fountain, but they do have a high military presence, and a lot of them are in relatively suburban communities. Site improvements, security and drainage, we're not a 24-hour facility, but we will have 24-hour security. And the amount of crime at our facilities is minimal because of all the security that we have ongoing. Drainage, we've reduced the flow from off the site. Impacts on residential values was another comment that came up during the Planning Commission hearing. We've done some research. We've never seen any material impact from one of our developments, because we're building a high quality asset. And if you guys ever get a chance to visit one of our existing stores, you'll see what we're talking about. And then lastly, market demand. We show that for market demand, we demonstrated that we're roughly half of what the square foot per capita demand is in the state of Colorado. So just a few relative dates. We were in Planning Commission on June 2nd. This evening, obviously, we're here. It's our first reading for City Council. Second reading on the 27th of July. If all goes as planned, we would start construction later this summer or early in the fall, and roughly have 12 months to complete the project conservatively to build the project and open in summer, early fall of 2022. One of the dates that is not on here, we did have an original, we handed out mailers and flyers and went door to door on all the neighboring community in December of 2020, and then again in March 2021, as Gabby alluded to. So we did do our outreach, and we had minimal comments. So with that, I close it and open it up to any questions that the council may have.
The only thing that he mentioned, going to visit one, can we arrange that trip to the Hawaii one? Okay. Right, we just want to do our due diligence.
Absolutely, we can set that up. Set that up for
Do
you.
executive protection.
Oh, okay.
Nah, Todd, you're retired, dude. I'm going.
All right. We're getting a little punchy. Any questions?
Are you going to have any climate controlled? Because that's a real need in this community, is climate control.
There will be a small component that is climate controlled. As we look back, generally in this, there are two buildings. I don't know, you can point so these two buildings would be climate controlled. Dave, which of the two buildings that would be climate?
The front building, second one right in the middle.
This one?
And then the rear building.
And then this one?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. I'm always sending people to another city for climate-controlled storage.
Okay.
When you write the news there, because I called Sharon, I'm trying to find a storage space, and the closest one to me is Air Force Academy, so it'd be more soon.
It's certainly, our market research shows that there's a demand.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It is a public hearing, so I'll allow public to come up and speak on this item. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Nicola Myers-Murdy, and I've been the representative for the seller for the since 2016.
Okay.
And Gail and Ronald Green started this project with the concept of doing it themselves, and this was going to be their retirement plan. Since that time, Ron died a few years ago, and Gail could not pursue it herself. And we fielded, I personally have fielded 300 calls or more from various people wanting to buy it to improve the abandoned home on it and live in it, to all kinds of different things. We've even had a dollar store who wanted to take the frontage. I think you might remember that. But I really believe that this group is the most qualified to bring a really high profile and very well-maintained project to Fountain. And I know that the owner, Gail, is very happy with the way they've pursued this and have stuck with the original intent. So she's very supportive of it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. With that, I'll close the public hearing, and if there's no further discussion or comments, questions from council, I'll entertain a motion. Ms. Estes.
I move to approve ordinance number 1765 on first reading, subject to conditions.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem?
A second.
Ms. Duncan, did you have anything, or, okay. All right, we have a motion and a second for approval. Please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, thank you, and best of luck.
Good presentation, good job. Thank you, guys.
Yep, thank you.
One. Ooh, good luck. 8 months. All girls? All girls. All girls.
All right, item D, 9D, authorization to reclassify utilities administrative assistant to utilities budget analyst. Mr. Blankenship.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Utilities Department is requesting that the council consider reclassifying a part-time administrative assistant position to full-time budget analyst. Under my direction, we have significantly stepped up the level of financial management performed by the utility management team, myself and the heads of each of the divisions and departments that I supervise. We rely upon our finance department for accurate accounting, but I believe that it is the utility management's responsibility to manage the finances of the utility. In the past, the managers in the utility department were more of just expenditure managers. My expectation is now that they not only manage the expenditures and the revenues, but ultimately the long-term management of the fund, the water fund and the electric fund. The managers and their assistants have taken on these additional tasks, and it's increased their workload fairly significantly. Earlier in this year, we had an administrative assistant in electric that retired. With the consolidation of our operations at our utilities operations center, we have also consolidated those functions, and we no longer need the administrative assistant position. The proposed reclassification, the budget analyst, that particular individual will assist the utilities management in preparation of and management of the budget, both expenditures and revenues. One of the most important things that this position will do is that the analyst will continuously track and forecast actual versus budgeted financial numbers throughout the year and prepare monthly statements for the management team on revenues and expenditures, and identify potential budgetary issues and work with that appropriate manager so that we can address those issues in a proactive manner. We've been very diligent in managing our expenditures in both electric and the water fund. We have services where our customers are expecting for us to provide. We have expansions that need to occur, but especially on the water side, our rates are pretty much, I think, at the highest level that our customers can afford at this point in time, and we have a significant amount of debt. And so we have to be very efficient and effective in how we manage the finances of our utility in order to ensure that we provide the level of service and meet the expectations of our customers. This petition will also work very closely with finance to ensure that we are in compliance with all of the city's purchasing and financial policies and best management practices. So I am recommending that the council authorize the reclassification of the utilities administrative assistant to utilities budget analyst, and would be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Okay, any questions from council? All right, I think it seems self-explanatory, makes sense to me. Mr. Applegate.
I move to authorize the reclassification of utilities administrative assistant to utilities budget analyst.
All right, and Ms. Duncan.
I second.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem, do you have anything, or?
No, I was just gonna say.
Okay, we have a motion second for approval, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
All righty. On to item number 10, correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. I'll start with Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the city council. Just in the interest of time tonight, I don't have anything.
All right,
Nothing, Mayor.
Mr. Evans.
No loopholes for you tonight, Mayor.
No loopholes, sorry. Darn it. All right, Chief Heber.
No, sir, keep rolling.
Congrats, Ms. Torres, once more.
Thank you.
Anything from you?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, Chief Maxon,
Nothing for me.
Mr. Blankenship.
Thank you for your continued support of the utilities.
All right, Mr. Trilch.
I have one thing. I would just like to introduce Mr. Greg Luchka, Master Sergeant, U.S. Army, who is our second Veterans Fellow who's been serving with us for about the last month or so. And I invited him to come tonight to sit through a standard city council meeting. So he's had his fill. Hopefully he'll show up tomorrow. But anyhow, I just wanted to introduce him to council and thank him very much for serving with Fountain and welcome him. He is working on a project with the city manager and myself on the strategy and looking at a 3, 6, and 9-year analysis of kind of the direction that the city's moving. So he's got a special project, and he's also getting around with some of the departments. So.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
And that's all. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Martinez.
I have nothing.
All right, anything from IT?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right, Ms. Huffman.
Skate park's open. We'll have a grand opening here pretty soon.
Yeah, I saw someone there this morning. I'm like, are you supposed to be in there? But it was open,
Yes.
so. Okay, it looks good.
And the splash pad has
Splash
been
pad, okay.
repaired, yes. We're still waiting for a pump for our fountain up front.
All
We
right,
can't win them all, but I'm gonna say skate park and splash pad are wins.
okay,
all the way
they
down.
are. That's
That's all
awesome.
I have.
All right, Ms. Rosa, anything? Nope, okay, Ms. Duncan? Nope, Mr. Geek?
Nothing.
Mr. Applegate?
Did it have to be so cold in here?
It's comfortable. It's comfortable. All right, Ms. Estes?
Nothing.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing.
Ms. Thompson? Huh?
Can we go home now?
I think so. I have nothing. We will see you on July 27th. We're adjourned.